All right, call the meeting to order, review the agenda for additions or omissions.
The only addition I would have is that regretfully, have not had time to work through the minutes, either of them. And the sidewalk RFP is still in review. I did forward a draft to the select board members and Eric, and I did not post it online for public review, but if folks feel that it's ready for at least some discussion, we can continue with that on the agenda.
All right, so 11, you're saying 11 is off the March 29th and April 12th minute meetings?
Postponed.
Meeting minutes? Is
Postponed.
postponed?
Yes.
Okay. And then the sidewalk, is the sidewalk on here or is it not?
Well, it depends if select board members feel it's ready for discussion. It has, the draft was not posted on the agenda publicly, but a draft was circulated internally. There's enough possibly for discussion, but not necessarily for, maybe for final decision, but I'll leave that up to select board members to think about and decide if you're ready for that.
Speaker, it was number 10 in regular business. It was on the second page.
Okay, that's the one that didn't print. I got like every other one printed, and I don't know what's going on with my printer right at the moment, because that's new as well.
Hey Beth,
Gremlins.
can you make me a co-host file? I can
Yes.
share the
Absolutely.
Oh, I've got it on my phone now that
Okay.
now that you told me where
We
it
can-
is. So,
we could put it up if people are interested in seeing it too.
Mhm.
just a matter of what's the board's pleasure on that one? You want to just discuss it and see where it goes from there?
I think there's a problem just with us discussing it, even if it's not in final form.
Yeah, I would agree with that, Peeker.
Okay, so we're gonna discuss it.
Might as well.
All right, sounds
Yeah,
good.
begin discussions.
All right. So if that's, anybody else got any changes? All right, hearing none. Overview of the Zoom meeting operation procedures, rules for participation. If you've got to keep yourself muted, if you've got a question, raise your hand, send a chat. Hopefully somebody will get it and let me know. I'm sure they will. And we'll let you have at it. Public forum, opportunity for people who are not on the agenda to briefly speak. Anybody got anything for public forum? Seeing none, hearing none, moving on. Consent agenda. Approval of curb cut for the lower notch per public work foreman's recommendation. Approval of curb cut for Jackman's on Mountain View Street. Approval of curb cut application on Meehan Road per Public Works foreman's recommendations. Approval grant authorization for Recreation Department. Application of the Vermont After School Summer Grant Program for up to $75,000. Approval of grant authorization request retroactive V-Trans application for Lincoln Road, New Haven Riverbank washout restoration, and approval of Green Mountain Power petition request to rebuild poles on Lower Notch Road.
I make a motion that we approve the consent agenda.
I have a question.
Give me a second and we'll talk about it.
Second.
I'll second.
Okay.
All right,
Thank
go
you.
ahead, Michelle.
Eric, I know you're, at least says you're on the Davis application, 2 questions. Are they, this is just for residential, number 1. And then the second question is, does he need to get something from the state to like put a culvert in for that creek that's there? Or is that something we do?
No, that's on his, that's private property over there, so that would be on him to deal with the river part. And yes, it is eventually going to be residential, but as of right now, it's just going to be for a barn.
Okay, I was just worried about, because I know he's got his excavating stuff and he comes in and out of that, his other driveway with the big rigs, and I just think this is a bad spot for him to be turning in and out of.
Well,
With
it's
that
not
stuff.
that, big, it's down below that.
Well, yeah, I know, I saw where it was gonna be. I just wanted to double check. Okay,
Yeah, he's got slight distance space for it, so.
Eric, it says here in Valerie's notes, it's for a new agricultural access on Meehan.
For George's,
I'm just going to Meehan Road per public, Davis on Meehan Road for public.
right, he's gonna put a barn back there.
Okay,
The answer to your question, Michelle, is he would need a stream alteration permit if it's a stream that runs all the time in order to cross it. But that's a state permit, not a town permit.
yeah, he has already put a huge culvert in the upper one, and the state was kind of involved in that, but not really, because there's no fish in the stream. So I'm guessing he probably really doesn't necessarily need anything from the state.
Any further questions on the consent agenda?
I guess I figure I still, for the, so is it for George Davis or for Paul? It doesn't matter, I guess doesn't matter, but is it
George,
agricultural use? Eric?
Yeah, yeah.
Commercial use.
The
no,
property-
agriculture, he's gonna be working the fields back there and he's putting a barn back there.
Okay, all right.
Joel, the
He doesn't
property is
need-
owned by George,
I
Paul
just
and
didn't
his
know what
mom.
it's gonna be used for. Realized they're putting a barn up, but I didn't know.
Eventually, I understand he wants to put a house back
Yeah.
there too, so,
Down the road he goes.
yeah.
that's my understanding as well.
Well, Eric, then a question to that. Not, I know we can't look ahead, but would that driveway pass there if it was a residential residence?
Yes, he's got sight distance.
Okay,
Yeah, he's good with it where it is for residential. He'll just have to get a change of use permit.
Okay.
Change from ag to residential.
Yeah, the curb cut should be the same no matter what the use. The criteria for the curb cut should be the same no matter what the use, correct, Eric?
Correct.
Well, it kind of, it differs a little bit if there's depending on the type of use. If it's a multifamily or commercial use, you might want a driveway. You might want to specify a driveway that has enough throat level and passageway for two-way traffic. So you might need to specify that. But for agricultural purposes, that's not necessary right now.
Right, but the site distance and all that is the same. So if he applies for a change of use and it's gonna be something of that nature, at that point, he would have to widen it. But it's not gonna change the site distance.
Right, because it goes by the speed of the road.
Gotcha. Any other questions on the consent agenda? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye or raise your hand. Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Regular business, Stony Hill residential development density and town property transfer negotiation update and next steps. Is this you, Valerie, or Kevin?
Well, multiple people probably. Hopefully folks had a chance to review the town admin report on where we are right now in terms of the options that were reviewed. We did receive just this afternoon an updated plan for the a proposed lot line adjustment. I've not have a chance to, it's angled awkwardly, and I was hoping to be able to flip it, but I haven't been able to do that. But I'm going to try to turn this over to Samantha in case she has anything to, if she can, she wants to share a screen with anything. Maybe not, but I'm going to offer that anyway. I will also try to do it, but in the meantime, I will while I'm trying to sort that out, I'll let Samantha give an update on where things are at.
Sure. Thanks, Valerie. I can share both I think folks have the proposed MOU was in the package, but I can share that if folks are wanting to see that, or just this updated lot line adjustment. I'll start there because it sounds like that's what you were having trouble with. Oh, that's the MOU. We'll go back to that.
There you go.
Yep. So I think this was just sort of a next step. The last time I spoke with the select board was back in February, and the select board responded favorably to figuring out a solution to getting 20 units on this housing site at Stoney Hill, when there were a few different things that folks wanted to explore, and so the town could determine the best way forward to do that. So this MOU laid out those 3 different options. As Valerie's report for this meeting stated, the town has determined that it can't be through an easement. So the first option in this MOU is no longer on the table. I mean, we could still sign this, or we could revise it to take that off. The second thing that was discussed was the possibility of changing the zoning to allow for the density on the site. And I know, Valerie, you forwarded an email earlier today from someone on the planning commission talking about that. And then the third is the one that we discussed the most at that meeting, which is a lot line adjustment to include some of the adjacent town-owned land that's really undevelopable because it goes down to the river. And this do people see this drawing now with the green spaces? Is what I had sent Valerie last minute. Kevin LaRose and Chris Purley, based on the discussion that we had in February, sat down together and sort of drafted this. This wouldn't be the final, but drafted this as a proposed lot line adjustment that would allow for the 20 units of housing we'd like to propose on this site. And I know Valerie said there were 2 options. One was to have the select board authorize you or someone else to just sign the MOU, or to make a motion to go forward with the lot line adjustment and let that be finalized. But happy to answer any questions or.
And then there's also the question if the select board wants to consider the proposed interim zoning option.
So
Right.
let me say, I talked to Kevin a little bit about this and doing the spot zoning type thing. And he said that it's probably not a very good idea. He said he thinks that the cleanest way would be to do the lot line adjustments and put the restrictions on it that we need for us to access the property for the Bristol Trail Network and whatever. He said doing a zoning would take a lot of time, zoning adjustment, and the fact that you would just want to do a zoning overlay on this one piece could bring up problems if anybody wants to disagree with doing that zoning overlay. So he said really the cleanest way to do this would be the lot line adjustment. He does not suggest doing the zoning overlay.
The question I've got, it looks like there's still town-owned property between the end of that easement and the end of that transfer and the creamy stand.
Sam, can you put that back up?
Yep, sorry, I always go between being able to see people's faces and sharing. Yep.
So it looks like they're at the top right hand of the screen. It looks like there's still town of Bristol property.
Yes, and this was sort of at the request of the select board at the last meeting, was to sort of move the lot line adjustment south, basically to leave this land by the town, I guess, unencumbered, or so it was still owned by the town.
And Peter, I think that you may have brought that up, where the concern about how little earth there is between the road and that piece of property. You don't see it on this map. It looks like a nice big rectangle, but it's sheer drop.
Yeah,
And it's been an erosion problem before, pretty dramatic. And so I think it was your suggestion, it may have been someone else's, but to move that starting point there away from the creamy stand. And I think Kevin LaRose, who's familiar with that terrain, started with that rectangle, that white rectangle, because it is fairly flat, relatively speaking, in there, and move in a westerly, southwesterly direction and add that extra 1.8 acres there that Samantha's outlining. As that would be the only thing that would really have to move is move it away and extend it in a southerly direction.
yeah, the only reason I questioned it, if we're gonna have, the only reason we wanted that property originally was so that we were able to, if we had to, we were able to get in there unencumbered to do anything to save the road.
Right.
And as I look at it now and what we're up against, it almost seems to me to make more sense to start and have it one continuous piece and not own something in the middle. And then in the event that, that Stoney Hill had to do something where they needed more land or something, we'd have it there. Whereas if we go, and I know there's no intention of that right now, Kevin, but
No, I know.
but it just seems like if we do it once, we set a precedent, and then if we need it and the property's not conjoined, we wouldn't be able to do it again.
So are you suggesting you go back to the creamy stand, come up from the riverbank a bit and make a long string all the way from where to where?
Starting at the creamy stand
So
and encompassing
right
all the
there.
land until you get to what you need. And it may go into lot 3. It may go down the side of lot 3, but I just think it's a lot cleaner if we don't own anything in between.
No, I guess I think this was something that I recommended to Kevin today, based on what I understood to be the concern that there was just, it was too vulnerable, that stretch, given the proximity to the road and the steepness of that bank, that you didn't want someone else to be owning that land.
Well, originally we didn't want somebody else to be owning that whole area, but like I said, if we have access to it, if we have unencumbered access to it, does it make any difference?
No, I would say not. So it's your call, of course, whatever works. We can put it, there's no intended use for it whatsoever. And I kind of want to speak for Evernorth and Samantha, but the idea is it's a density issue, not a use issue.
Right.
Yeah, so that was my question, Kevin. So really, you guys have no plan to do anything with this other than to use it for your density to build the houses on lot
Yes.
1 or lot, whatever it is.
Yes, to build the housing on this part of the land, and our understanding would be that, obviously the intended use for this property is for the trail.
Right.
And then we would, the town would have access, and we would want that it's gonna honestly help us with our federal funding to have it be very clear that we're not talking about developing any of this land that's, so on a steep bank to the river, that we wouldn't be able to do that anyway. So I think that we will, we would just draft the easements required and language to say in perpetuity, we would not be planning any development on this site.
Right.
Right.
So Peter, I think that we could do what you're saying, start with the creamy stand and go back. We would just have to make sure the restrictions or covenants, whatever you want to say, are in the deed to say we have, unencumbered access to get in there to fix whatever we need to fix. And then the Bristol Trail Network's easement goes with the land or whatever, whatever that is.
Right. So we did have a couple of renderings from the last meeting that did start at the creamy stand, and one came up from the river a bit. Oh, look at that. Samantha, you're awesome. Is that Samantha?
Peter, I like this one better because
Can you-
what,
no.
I'm sorry, Kevin,
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Because what if lot 1 or lot 2 needed a little more density in a few years? They'd have that green spot that was down into this area.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
was
I
my
like this
point.
one better.
And that one comes up from the river a bit, which I think works for Samantha's federal funding because they don't like this stuff next to the river too much. You know, the land goes right to the middle of the river, according to the previous drawing.
Right, this
Evan,
one
isn't
goes-
lot 2 that you guys have on there, doesn't that belong to the town too?
Yes,
That's what I thought. I was gonna say,
Right.
that's already owned by us. Okay.
yeah.
Yep, it's
No,
already
that-
owned by the town. I think what I'm hearing is that if we go with this version, the town still continues to own this and could sell some of it back to the commercial, just, you know, that it's land to use that's contiguous for other uses for density if it's needed.
Potentially, yeah.
Potentially, hopefully not, but potentially.
Yeah, there's no thought that you need it right now, but I would hate to have you come up, change your plan just a little bit, Kevin, and need another couple acres and not be able to make it work.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
So this one here does serve a lot of, I think it's pretty clean and there's no reason to go all the way down to the river. And it looks like the trail isn't even on it, is it?
I do think that the trail certainly crosses it. I'm
Yeah.
not
Yeah,
exact,
that's right.
and then
That's
comes
right.
down, but
Yeah.
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 It's hard to tell on this map where it comes, but it meanders through there.
It's definitely, yeah, because I know that it crosses this parcel where we're planning
Right.
to
Mhm.
have the actual development, I think, back in this corner.
Yep.
Yeah, it does in the back. Mhm.
And does this drawing here give you enough land to do what you want to do?
Right. I
The
think,
the last time we did it, it did. And again, if you go to the next one quickly, nope, the one that was included in this past. Yeah, so we were at 3.5 acres, does it say? I can't.
Yeah.
quite
yeah,
It says-
whoops. I think that when Chris and Kevin LaRose sat down, they determined that there was some additional acreage and more than the 3.5 that was required because this parcel over here had originally been part of the density calculation for the housing, but because it's no longer contiguous, it's not. And so that's why this is 3.5 acres, what they proposed today, plus 1.8. I think if we go this way, we'll still need a little bit of that chunk, but not as much because this is the high density residential where you get 4 units per acre and then it drops down. So I think we could, that's not the right one.
Yeah,
We could just go back, have Kevin and Chris one more time, let them know that the select board's preference is for this version and just see, you know, how much of this land and maybe a tiny bit of this land is required.
Well, I know you said they don't like the view next to the riverbed, but if you go down to the river, would that get you enough without having to cut into this lot too?
the last time we did it was enough because again, all of this land, if I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure that the property line in the backyard of the firehouse and the front yard of the commercial there that's where the density changes, the zone changes. So you're in a 4 units per acre if you stay north of that. Can you go there, Samantha, to
Go where?
yeah, just the bottom, the southernmost purple line there is where the density,
Yes.
it changes, the zone changes. So it's
Yeah.
less acreage that the town is giving up if you stay above up there. If you move down to the river, it's even probably less than that. I would say, let's let Kevin do a couple of drawings and you guys pick what works, but we'll go all the way to the creamy stand and we'll go down to the river as far as we need to get the acres and no more.
I
Unless,
think that's a win-win if we can gain, you know, we give up less acreage and we keep the south end.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, like you said, it's not like, you know, as Joel always says, it's not really worth anything. It's just holding the earth together, but it is acreage. And I think we're better off to keep contiguous acreage than we are to have a break in it.
Yeah, and it works for the commercial side too. It's not interrupting anything. And like you said, it does leave some flexibility there if it were essential.
Ian, Darla, your thoughts?
Love it.
Yeah, you asked the questions that I did. I was trying to orient myself, but I think I figured out where the creamy stand is here and property that we need. So I'm not used to looking at these all that much, but this makes more sense that we can hang on to a little more property. And if it's giving you, Kevin, everything you need, it feels like this is the perfect way to go.
Well,
Does
I
the
think
select board need anything more tonight? Or are you prepared to make a decision?
I mean,
I'm
could we,
prepared.
yeah, I was gonna say, if we can get them on that lot, you know, with whatever they need for that north of the lot 2, I think I'm good with that. And I think we could give you permission to sign the MOU on
Yeah.
our behalf.
Am I hearing a motion?
Sure.
Second.
For Tasha, are you all set with that?
How would you like me to word it? So
I make a motion that we enter into the MOU with, I don't know who's on there, Kevin and
Evernorth.
Evernorth.
Evernorth, to adjust the lot lines north of lot 2 and give Val authority to sign the MOU on our behalf. After Kevin LaRose readjusts whatever.
Yeah.
Ian, you're good with that, with your second?
Yep, absolutely.
Any further
I would,
discussion?
I would just add MOU and to adjust the lot lines so that they are separate things.
Guess
Yeah, the MOU
Carol,
thing and the lot line thing is another thing.
question I have. I hate to be the horses behind here, but I will ask the question. Is there any money transaction here for that piece of land? It does get them from 15 units to 20 units. So I realize it's not worth a lot of money, but is there, I gotta ask the question.
I'd say no. I'd say the town is benefiting from the additional units in terms of the taxes, correct?
Yes, having the 5 additional units will increase the annual property taxes paid.
There we go.
And water rents and the whole 9 yards, so it's
Okay.
not.
Yeah.
I had to ask.
No, it's a good
Yeah, I
question.
think we had that
Joel. I think-
discussion the last time anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought we'd batted around a little bit the last time, so.
Would these, would the assessment on those 20 units be something like Bristol Family Housing down on South Bristol, or where it's got a lot of covenants and that thing was assessed about 20% of what it was cost to build?
Well, it's not, it's based on the, of course, I don't have it up in front of me. The state has legislation, I don't know, I know Elise is on and she might have it up in front of her, where there's a calculation done for affordable housing that determines the property tax paid. So it's not the same property tax that would be paid if there was market housing on the site, market rate housing, but it does go up with the number of units.
So Samantha, how do we explain to a Lover's Lane down there, I can't think, I'm drawing a blank on the name of that house. all that-
Woodland apartment.
Woodlands.
Woodland Apartments, who pay full bore on the apartments houses, and they're assessed by our assessor.
Mhm.
And then this one, I realize it's Section 8 housing, or is it? I don't know. Maybe I'm speculating. But how do you say somebody like that? Yeah, your unit's worth, each unit down there is worth 300,000, 250, and this one's going to be worth 125,000, and they're competing for the same renters.
Well, yep, I would say that they're mostly not competing for the same renters. The state of Vermont has incentivized the building and operation of housing that is affordable to low income Vermonters. And this is a way that it makes it possible. If we had to pay the same property taxes as if we were charging market rent, there's just no way we have to have income to operate the property. And so this is a way of controlling the operational costs of the development that the state has put in place to make sure that we have housing that is affordable. If the property taxes are, again, the same as the market rate, there's no way for us to keep the housing affordable and be able to pay those property taxes.
Okay. I mean, you
Put
can,
another way, if Kevin were building this, it would cost him the same amount of money to construct it per unit, but he'd be charging $1,200 to $1,400 a month in rent. Meanwhile, we're limited to more like $800, $900 a month in rent. So that's sort of the rationale for the property
well, you
tax.
can see 15 years in the Licious office got me those questions asked by landlords in town that said, why don't I get the same rate as some of the other ones get?
Because,
Oh, yeah.
and it isn't Section 8, is it? Is that how how do you describe it, Samantha?
No, it's not Section 8. It's primarily low-income housing tax credit development. And at this point, sometimes some of our properties are able to get project-based Section 8 vouchers. We do not have a commitment for Section 8 vouchers at this property at this time.
Right.
Thank you.
So, yeah.
Elise and Sam, let me just see if I understand this. So even though it may get assessed at fair market value, that gets reduced based on whatever the state statute is for them to determine the value of
Yep.
those properties based
Yep.
on the low income housing statutes or whatever.
That's right. And there's a worksheet that you fill out that tells you exactly what it's going to be. And just to clarify, there are several units that in this development that won't be low income housing units that are considered workforce housing, and they're limited to folks more that would be competing with those units down at Woodland Apartments, and those will, do not get, they don't get that break. So the worksheet takes into account the level of income restriction on the units.
Okay.
And I guess I think it's worth commenting that Stony Hill is having this conversation and signed this option agreement with Evernorth because the building costs were prohibitive for Bristol's market. It's just, you have to build something inexpensive, something that isn't going to last, something that's not environmentally tight, and all these things that cost real money. This is, in my mind and my partner David's mind, this is a much better option in the end because it's a mix of market and a quote unquote affordable, and it's going to provide homes for workers and people that live in near town and work in town. And the money's got to come from somewhere. It just doesn't grow on trees. And this is a great opportunity to build tight houses that are efficient, modern houses, and build a neighborhood that most people can afford. We couldn't do it. We've been 3 years sitting on this, trying to make it happen, and it's only gotten worse.
I think it's also important to note that there are a number of people looking for housing right now. There's just not, it's not like there's so much housing, someone who's looking for a place at Woodland Apartments, is going to displace someone else. I mean, there's such a need for housing right now that having this stock is going to be important for Bristol in a number of ways.
They won't stay open long.
Right. I think that's what I was trying to say, Michelle. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, are we set to vote then?
Yes.
All right, hearing no further discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye or raise your hand. Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you, Sam. Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
guys. Yeah.
All right, on to Eagle Park Universal Fishing Platform proposal for engineering design services for the flood mitigation.
Yes, this is interesting. Hopefully folks had a chance to review the notes and background information. We have cost estimates for repair of the fishing platform through FEMA to rebuild it as it was before it was damaged, to restore it to its pre-damaged condition. We also have an opportunity to probably secure hazard mitigation funding for an alternative design that might respond better, be more resilient to future flooding and reduce damages. But the question, there are questions about how procedurally how it work. Conservation Commission members, Kristen Underwood and Dave Henderson have out to the the original engineer of the platform, who's now with a new company, for an estimate of what it would take to come up with a new design, a resilient design. And we went to them because they are familiar with the site, they have the original plans, and it just seemed like an efficient way to go. And they've come back with a proposal. And we've not made that the proposal public because the select board may wish to go in a different direction, and we didn't want to compromise the ability to seek additional bids or quotes. So a question, and Kristen and Dave are here. I think Dave is here. I know Kristen is. To talk about next steps and how best to go forward with this. So this is by way an update for the select board on where we're at with that situation, and also looking for guidance.
And my gut instinct oh, sorry, go ahead, Kristen.
I was just going to mention that Roy Schiff from the engineering firm is also here and could answer questions.
Oh, nice. Thank you, Roy.
Okay. My first impression when I was reading this was like, I do not want to spend more money on this platform that I think there's no way we're going to get it the way it is to keep it in place without the next big storm that comes through. I mean, how many times have we fixed this?
A lot.
Yeah. I mean, to me, I would be open to an alternative design, whether it be a bridge, whether I have no idea, but the current configuration, I just don't think is the right one.
Go ahead, John.
Just a quick observation going by there all the time. That thing is exactly gets the brunt of the main flow of the river at all times. I don't think anything could last there. I mean, it's in exactly the wrong place. You know, the river's trying to carve it out there. If you look at how it flows, and they put rocks on the upstream side of that, but it's never going to overdo the river. And if you could design it in a way so that it was not in that perfect brunt of the, flow, and designed to let the flow go on by it, I don't know, maybe that would help, but it just seems like it'll never survive where it is.
I actually received very similar feedback from another citizen who suggested that it should be moved downstream a little bit out of that position and away from that particular part of the flow.
Yeah,
That corner.
I think we may have had this discussion when it was originally built, and the thought was that it was going on that monster rock that had never moved, and that's why it was put there. Roy, can you shed a little light on that?
Yeah. Thanks for having me, everyone. And yeah, that's exactly right. We knew that it's a pretty powerful spot in the river as it turns there, but those two giant boulders seem to present a unique spot to have a platform that wasn't very high off the water and didn't require excessive construction around the river, because you could wedge them into the boulders. And I guess what I've learned from Kristen is that perhaps one of the boulders, it seems like, shifted in the Halloween flood and broke some of the brackets on the platform. So that was a little unexpected, but yeah, that's how it landed there.
So what do you have Can you share an idea with us that you have in mind, that an alternative
Sure.
idea, or is that getting into something we don't want to get into yet?
Yeah, no, I mean, I can throw around a few ideas. I mean, I've seen some pictures, and you know, I've been in touch with Pete before the end of the year, and you know, I didn't get a chance to visit the site. The first thing is the platform was designed to be overtopped and withstand a flood. And again, the way it's failed, I spoke with the fabricator, the doctors who actually made the metal construction, and they told me that because only the pieces on one of the boulders failed, it seemed like one of those boulders rotated, whereas the connections on the back and the downstream side didn't fail. If the whole platform had moved in the flood, then there would have been a larger failure in all the different pieces. So, and the thinking again was that the platform, although in a you know, powerful spot, you know, was sheltered by those boulders. So a couple of the ideas we had, one is, you know, maybe add another bracket to the boulder, and then if in fact, you know, if we did some work, we would resurvey the boulder and see if it did move in fact, and if it did, you know, perhaps putting bracing between the back wall and the boulder so they become one unit. So even if the platform were to shift a little bit in flood, the brackets wouldn't break and the whole thing would move. To me, the thing that's really, there are two things that have always hampered the platform. One is the ice and debris hitting the upstream railing. And so we thought maybe we could put a fold down railing that you could unpin and unlock and fold it down and close the platform for the ice out or for a big flood, and then put the railing back up so the debris and material just flowed over the platform. And the second is the walkway. And there's been a couple attempts to fortify the walkway, but there's never been a proper foundation. I spoke with a structural engineer, and so the bottom of the walkway really needs to have a small foundation that goes down into the ground to protect it from getting undermined, which you see it now, it's been undermined, and there's a cavity under the walkway. So maybe, so in summary, it's like, and this is all just from looking at photos and having a few discussions with Kristen and others over the past year or two, you know, upgrading the brackets, and then, you know, putting a foundation on the walkway that's below the flood level. So that's about 50 feet, 60 feet-ish that Kristen had measured. And then finally, maybe bracing the system together so it acts as one stable unit instead of the unexpected event where one of those giant erratics actually moves on its own in a future flood. So those are just a few ideas, and you know, we would consider alternatives and talk with the manufacturer to try to improve the stability of that if we were to work with you all.
So what are our funding options, Valerie? Where are we?
Well, we know what we have in hand to repair the platform as it was, the 50-something dollars through FEMA. The FEMA folks have said that they need more information to know whether hazard mitigation funding would be eligible for a new design or an updated design, and whether the engineering expenses associated with that would be reasonable. In my experience, they have found those expenses to be reasonable, but I can't guarantee that, of course.
So, and what kind of timeline are we talking if we pursue that?
Right.
That
Good
platform
question.
probably won't be available all summer.
Well, for sure. The funding period from the Halloween storm closes in July, and we would need to request an extension. And I've been told that one would likely be approved if we're showing progress, forward motion.
Valerie, I got maybe a question for the group. As Michelle said, I think this is at least the third time and maybe the fourth time we're repairing this. What's the thought of finding another location. I know this was Pete's dream to have a fishing platform, and I still think that's a great dream to have. God rest his soul. But, you know, we know the river from A Johnson south wanders, and does it move any faster? Probably doesn't move any faster or any less than the water there, but the Lincoln water seems to, because it's dropping in elevation quite faster, it seems to move faster. And, you know, what about maybe Sycamore Park, somewhere in that area, pick that platform up, and just throwing some ideas out that maybe it could go, going on what John Moyer said, you know, that water does turn right there, and we seem to be throwing money at this thing about every 4 or 5 years.
My sense is that there was some connection with Eagle Park. I don't know the history exactly, but that's my sense, that there was some association with Eagle Park in this.
I might be able to shed a little light on that. I think Sycamore Park was considered originally along with Eagle Park. And the reason that Eagle Park was chosen in the end was that Vermont Fish and Wildlife felt that there'd be more viable fishing possibilities up there than down at Sycamore Park. But it never did we really consider the resiliency of the structure in the face of flooding, I would say, expressly.
John?
Yeah, I mean, I had an idea thinking about accessibility, because the Eagle Park is actually really accessible. And if you had, you know, it's kind of D-shaped, right? With the road being the upright part of the D and the river being the curved part of the D. If you brought that trail, that little paved trail around the D part along the river and reconnect it with the parking area, you'd have a nice little loop there. Somewhere on the trailing end of the water flow, like further downstream, you could put that fishing platform in a way where the river would, you know, be depositing behind it, hopefully, and not scooping it out off the bank the way it is now. And then you'd end up with the fishing platform and a really accessible park for Bristol, which is kind of a nice thought. So I was just hanging out there one day recently and had that brainstorm, but.
It sounds
Yeah, I
like
mean,
we need to make the decision as to whether we want to file for an extension and see if we can get mitigation money. Is that where we're at?
I think so. For tonight's purposes, we're looking for direction, and we can continue to ask FEMA people questions and get more guidance, but on whatever we come up with from tonight. But yeah, we're looking for direction from the select board on how you think we should be going.
Is it going to be possible to move it? I mean, I obviously you don't know the answer, but do you think it's possible to move it if we apply for mitigation, or do you
That's
think?
a very interesting question. I do not know the answer to that, but that is a very interesting question. I would like to think that that is a viable option if that's going to reduce future damages for everybody. So yeah, I'd like to think that that's an option. If that's a good one.
I'd also wonder if, because it is a universal fishing pier, thinking about access, if it was to be moved, we'd need to take that into consideration. And I think that knowing that would take Sycamore Park sort of out of the running. There's no way you would get a wheelchair to enter Sycamore Park if it's truly to be a universal fishing pier. But I can imagine. I could be completely wrong.
No, I think I agree with you on that. I didn't think that through, but I was just thinking the water doesn't seem to drop or move.
Right, Joel. Yeah, I agree with that.
And you know where Kristen's group has done the a lot of the willows there below A Johnson.
Mm-hmm.
But to get out there with a wheelchair would almost virtually be, you'd have to have a gravel path, so to speak, and cross that field that we own.
And four-wheel drive on your wheelchair.
I think John Moyer makes up a good point there. Maybe the downhill side of Eagle Park, there, you know, where it starts to flow down towards the third above circle and above.
Right.
Fishing.
Roy, you had a comment?
Yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt. I guess I just wanted to throw out there that the platform, so actually John's idea was considered in the original alternatives analysis. And the platform really landed where it was because of those boulders and the fact that if we built the platform in the lower area, although more protected from the direct current coming around the corner, it would be a little bit lower, and then we'd have to have a concrete structure that juts out into the river. And so the members of the town and the group who were all, reviewing ideas for the platform selected that spot because of those boulders. And it's a little bit unique. And I think one of the reasons it's very popular is its accessibility and the fact that it's actually not very, very high off the water like many platforms. So it's one of the more intimate platforms in the state, if not the region. And I guess the one thing I wanted to say is I'm not sure how readily that platform could be moved and mounted in another spot. It's actually quite uniquely formed to fit between those two boulders. So it has a little bit of a unique trapezoidal shape that kind of wedges right in there. So I just wanted to say that it could be quite a structural endeavor to manufacture something in a different spot to mount that platform. It would be quite a bit of a permitting effort to build a foundation there.
Is there anything that can be done upstream to prevent the damage that's happened to the platform over these past years to sort of mitigate the amount of water or amount of debris that could possibly come in contact with it?
They're not going to let you in the river to do anything that's going to change the course of the river to save the platform. I can almost guarantee you that.
And it probably wouldn't last.
Right. Kristen, I'm curious to know what the Conservation Commission might be thinking, what their suggestion might be.
Yeah, so knowing the unique construction of that platform, and we had all just felt that probably keeping it in that spot was the best, but maybe incorporating some new mitigation steps like the collapsible rails would help to reduce the amount of debris that gets lodged on the platform when it does overtop. We've invested quite a bit of time and effort in repairs, but really the Halloween storm was the only significant event to impact the platform itself. Most of the previous repairs have been to replace the SurePack on the access ramp that leads to the platform. And so we're intrigued by some of the ideas that Roy mentioned about a more substantial foundation for the ramp. And then that would enable a thinner length of concrete that would be perhaps less susceptible to damage if it were connected to the piered foundation. So as a Conservation Commission, I think we're interested in solutions that will help to reduce the amount of effort on our part to clean debris off the platform each time that it fails. And we're also aware that we have the Conservation Reserve Fund available to help make up some of the local match that's required for the FEMA grants.
Valerie, are we going to lose the money we already have if we apply for mitigation and don't get it? Are we still going to have the money we have to fix the platform as it is?
I believe we would if we apply for the extension. I think that would still be available to us. I also want to just correct a statement in my report where I mentioned how Kristen and Dave stepped up after the passing of Pete, when in fact, they have been stepping up all along over the years, dealing with the repairs year after year of one situation after another. So I just want to acknowledge that this is not a new thing, that they're stepping up to deal with this. They've been at it for a long time.
They're just in the lead now
They're in the lead now.
Instead of pushing
They're on
Pete
the front
uphill
line
there.
now. Yeah. But I just want to acknowledge that.
Now, I do have a question. When Roy was talking about the collapsible railings, how does that deal with our liability? You know, if we put the railings down and somebody gets on there and falls in or something or other, even if it's a storm or it's during the winter and we take them down or whatever, is that going to be a problem or an issue with VLCT?
I have no idea.
Yeah, I mean, that was just kind of popped in my head. It's like, I wonder how that's going to affect them.
I guess I got a question on that, Michelle, to Roy. But Roy, what you're saying is non-fishing season, maybe, you know, from about the end of October till about the 1st of April before trout season opens, that if we took the railings down and we just had a flat platform there, the water and debris would just kind of so-called slide over the top. Is that what you're thinking? And with less friction with the railings gone?
Yeah. Well, like actually, my thought was that you would do it during the ice out season, and if a nor'easter or tropical storm was predicted. So I was thinking, because I have been up there and seen people on the platform in all seasons. It's a beautiful spot in winter as well. So, you know, appreciating the comment about the liability, maybe it's a more focused storm and ice out. And really the idea of that, I think if you did that approach in other areas where roads and other river access areas are closed, there'd be a gate. I mean, you'd have to put a post and a gate up at the parking lot to close the ramp to notify people. And I was thinking maybe it could be designed so the railings all fold into the platform to create it almost hard to walk out onto the platform, because the railings would actually be in the way for the flow to go over them. And then after the storm, you come back out. And one of the main reasons for that is not only the debris Kristen mentioned, but the upstream accumulation is obviously the highest, because that's the first point of impact and it can tip and torque the platform. So the idea is to let that debris, like you said, slide over. So yeah.
I want to make an observation that when we were out there for our site visit last year, a family parked themselves with their beach chairs on the platform and went for a swim in the river right there, wherever there's a little swimming area off the deck there. And so they were there while we were doing our site visit. So it shows that it's not just fishing, but it's a family location to enjoy the river, wherever it's located. But that one was particularly attractive.
What's your pleasure?
It seems to me that the select board has, I guess, two possible options. One is to go with the FEMA funding in hand to repair in place. And we don't know exactly yet how FEMA would interpret the funding eligibility for going forward with hazard mitigation, engineering and design and alternatives. But if this is something that the select board feels is warranted and worthwhile, it may be worthwhile to do. And FEMA, in my experience, limited, but still my experience, they have found it to be they're somewhat, they have seemed to be open to these things, and I think they look for mutual benefits. So if they feel it's reasonable, then they will agree. So if the select board feels it's reasonable, then they might agree. And the other, I guess, the third option is if the select board wants to go in an entirely different direction and seek other information from other sources. So that's why the quote wasn't made public.
I have a question. What is FEMA or the state of Vermont or federal, whatever? Okay, so say we go with the point where we fix it rather than come up with a new design, but fix the current. This happens again. Is FEMA then going to say, sorry, we paid you last year or 2 years ago and it's happening again, we're not going to cover it.
No, that won't, no.
That's,
I mean, I'm just curious, at what point do they say you've got a bad design and you need to do something else?
Actually, if it happens 3 times in a row, then the town is in a better position, almost guaranteed position for hazard mitigation funding, because that is their cost benefit analysis threshold of 3 times, and you like not 3 times and you're out, but 3 times and you're in. And it's a frustrating threshold, because a facility has to be damaged 3 times in a row over time to qualify for hazard mitigation funding through FEMA. And it's a brutal cost benefit analysis process that you have to go through. And a lot of projects don't meet it, but hopefully we don't have to go there.
yeah, that was my thought. If they're gonna have to keep throwing money at this, that at some point they're gonna want us to upgrade it so that we don't have the problem.
Mm.
I mean, I don't think if we're not gonna lose the money we have, I don't see how it can hurt to ask for an extension and see if they'll entertain the idea of fortifying it so that it doesn't move. Or it hasn't moved, the rock moved, but I mean, fixing the trail so that we don't lose that every time we get an event. And I don't see where it can hurt to ask the question. It's not going to cost us anything to ask the question, is it?
No, and we don't need to make a hard decision tonight, but this is a moment in time where we have an opportunity for direction, and we can come back to it if we need to.
Ian, you're pondering it.
Well, I know I don't know, it's tough because we've done these repairs multiple times. And so the idea of moving it is obviously one that we should consider, but listening tonight, those things have been considered, and it's there for a reason. And if what Kristen says is true in terms of, the platform is indeed sound, it's the things coming towards it. I don't know, I don't know. Do we just continue to put money into this to just have it be damaged again and again? I do think it's like position invites more destruction than perhaps another location. John's suggestion of moving it downstream or further down into that area seems like a way, something that we could explore. But if it's already been explored, I guess I'd be curious of seeing that, the reasoning, and whether that could be revisited, and anything to get it out of the path of such a high performance water seems like it's going to benefit us in the long run.
Yeah, I recall having this exact conversation when it was built there, that it was being put right on that corner, right where everything hit. And the idea was we'd had all these storms and those 2 rocks hadn't gone anywhere. Right. And that's why it ended up there. And I don't, short of this time, the problems in the past haven't been with the platform itself. The problems in the past have been with the walkway to get there. It was just a gravel walkway, and when the water comes up, obviously the gravel disappears. So then we put concrete down, but I can see where Roy's saying if there's nothing for the concrete to set on, enough water comes through, it's going to wash the dirt out from under it.
Right.
And I don't know what the answer is. I know that getting permits to put some concrete in the river to move it down, they're probably going to be a lot harder than fixing it where it is to the point where it shouldn't move.
Right.
But there again, if Mother Nature decides it's going to move, it's going to move no matter what we do.
Valerie, have we gotten any idea of what it would cost to fix the brackets that Roy was talking about?
Sort of.
Without revealing it, then we do have some numbers.
Correct. Pete Domenico did reach out to doctors for some cost estimates about a repair, and did get some cost estimates. I don't know what they are off the top of my head. But yeah, we do have some figures, and it's a manageable number.
Those would be all covered fully by FEMA. Or no?
I'm not sure. Probably, maybe. Probably, maybe. But yeah, FEMA's estimate is over $50,000. So I'm sure whatever's included to stabilize the platform would be included in that.
I didn't hear that last part. I'm sorry. Darla, I didn't hear that last part. What would you say?
Whatever's included to stabilize the platform would be included in the FEMA.
Okay.
Acceptable within the FEMA estimate, as long as the same outcome, is achieved.
Is it possible to fix that one anchor at this point and still apply for mitigation so that the platform is usable?
You mean like a phased approach?
Well, I don't know. Roy, the design that you have in mind, would we be fixing the one mount that's currently broke and adding something else, or would we be doing something entirely different?
I think at a minimum fixing the one. And when I spoke with doctors, I believe they were going to add another one on that upstream side. I guess I'm thinking on the fly here. I don't think doing that repair would preclude, doing future improvements to the platform. Like, I think the walkway is a place where if you just filled everything back in and sort of stabilized it, and then you said, okay, let's mitigate and put in like a micro pile system or a, concrete foundation, then you'd be sort of undoing what you just did on the walkway side. But on the dock side, I think no matter what, at least that one bracket needs to be, changed right away. If not adding a second one.
And by replacing that one bracket, would that make it, I'm thinking of timeline, would that be usable this summer, do you think?
I think the platform would be, back to stable and level. They'd level it and stabilize it. It's slightly off level now, but the trick would be getting to the platform safely with the erosion on the walkway.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, honestly, I think just brainstorming, if you're thinking about the quickest path forward to get the platform in use, I mean, it's not a huge ticket item to get those brackets made and to get the walkway just filled back in so people could enjoy it. But that would be kind of back to the same state pretty quickly versus the improvements.
I mean, it seems like we could do both. We could make those short-term improvements to allow it to be usable this spring, summer, and fall, and then also at the same time be working on the bigger picture.
Yeah, that actually seems like a really good approach. And then, if FEMA came through with the extra money, then maybe there's a more consideration about a move or an improvement in that location, as you're all discussing.
And by if we do that, that doesn't nix us from doing the FEMA mitigation stuff?
I'm not exactly sure about that.
Right. I just want to step back a little bit. That part of SLR's proposal was a lump sum fee for doing a reanalysis of the site and some other investigation of the site. And we're kind of doing it off the fly here. And we don't know for sure. We're talking about interim improvements to make the platform accessible in the short term. And that would probably be outside of the scope of any kind of FEMA funding, because it may or may not be in line with what they had prepared. And if we're going to then propose to undo it with a mitigated design, then I think we're kind of, I don't know.
Well, that's where my question was. If we put that support back in underneath there, are we doing something that is going to be different than what we were going to do in the future. If it's something that's going to be, if it's something that's in his proposed design or what he's thinking of a design, that was the question to Roy. Is it something that's in what you envision the repair being, and we're not going to have to redo it, then we go ahead and do that and apply for mitigation. If it's not, then we need to either do it or not do it, one of the two. We either need to decide that we're going to leave it the way it is and apply for mitigation and go from there, or fix it with the money we have and call it good. But we can go around in circles all night. We need to make a decision, so.
I mean, I'd love to have it accessible this summer, but I just don't want to tie our hands to what we may get from FEMA and basically screw us over if we do something that's then going to come back on us.
How do we find out if that is going to affect us if we just do some small changes to make it usable this summer?
Usable and safe.
I don't
Because
think that,
people are going to go on it anyway, right?
yeah, if the town wants, or whoever wants to make interim improvements to improve accessibility in the meantime, that will not just jeopardize anything. It just might get undone. I mean, that would be on the town's nickel. As long as it's not paying for it, they won't care. And when the inspectors were there last year, that was a moment in time, and change at any other moment in time. So that's not going to be a barrier. The town can do that, but it would be on its own nickel.
Yeah, I can't believe it's going to be cost prohibitive to put a little gravel back in the walkway and shore up the concrete, or get it under the concrete so there's no issue there. The whole issue is the platform. And if the platform can be made safe, then I think we probably should pursue an alternative. Make the platform safe for now and pursue the option with FEMA. And then we'll know. I mean, either way, we've got to make it safe. Either we got to make it safe or we got to close it. And it's
Is that
not
a motion, Speaker?
and it's not going to stop people from using it.
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we do we want a price for that before we want an official thing, or do we just want to go ahead? I mean, we have conservation reserve funds if we need to use those, but I think you're right. I think it's not going to cost that much, but I'd make a motion to make the platform safe and usable for this season. And well, I can make that motion to start with.
And by that, do you mean just the walkway? Because the walkway is the barrier right now. It's all washed away.
Correct. Just make accessibility to the platform.
I'll
Did I get
second
it?
that.
Okay.
I'll second.
Further discussion?
I guess just, Ian, should it say, you're saying you're going to fix the pathway to the platform, and should it at least say any, we'll say needed repair, safety repair to the platform to make it safe? If they find a bracket that's broke, don't come back to us and ask if we got to have a bracket welded or fixed.
Yes. Yeah, that's good, Joe. Thank you.
You okay with that, Michelle?
Path leading to with a sign that says on the platform, please do not walk on platform, unsafe. That's what I'm saying.
Just to reiterate, I believe at this point that would all be on the town's nickel, unless we are putting out a scope of work that conforms with FEMA's outline for what they believe was necessary for the repair. And that still does not address, no offense, but it does not address the engineering aspect of hazard mitigation.
No, I think where we're at is Ian's getting the platform open for this. Correct me if I'm wrong, Ian. Ian's getting the platform open for this season, and then I think he's got a follow-up motion in March.
Just check.
Correct. Yeah, I wanted to do this one as a separate one, just to have that work done, hopefully, to get it ready for the season. And then we'll also, the second motion will continue sort of with the pursuing the FEMA money.
Got it. Thanks.
So any further discussion on the motion?
So is this safe to say, move to make the walkway to the platform safe and usable for the summer season?
The walkway and
platform.
platform safe.
I thought
Yeah.
you were saying not using the platform, so you
Well,
want
if there,
and
if there was
platform?
if there was a minimal or yeah, we want both things to be safe. The main thing is the walkway, but if something is discovered in terms of the platform when that is being done or looked at, then you would also do the platform to make both things safe. You can't have one without the other.
Clear as mud, Tasha?
Well, you might actually have one without the other. I would, at this point, suggest that the walkway is a higher priority because the platform is tilted, but it's not dangerous.
Okay.
The bracket from the doctor's estimate, it was, you know, pricey. I mean, it was reasonable, but it was not inexpensive to fix the bracket. So
You see the platform's not dangerous. Boy, you put yourself on a wheelchair up there, it might be dangerous if it's tilted.
it
It's
might,
like,
but if you can't get there in a wheelchair right now.
that's true.
So, yeah, I think access is the higher priority. The platform itself is not dangerous. It's tilted, but it's not dangerous, in my opinion.
Okay.
I
You're gonna
I
put
trust your
engineer's
opinion,
do you have
Bob.
any, Kristen, do you have any other thoughts on that?
It's certainly not, the platform is not sound as designed. So there definitely is one of the two brackets on the upstream side is completely separated from the platform. So whatever, and I'm not a structural engineer, whatever the platform was rated for, it's certainly not rated for now because of that missing or separated bracket. So I mean, I think it would be important to add to repair the bracket and therefore, and at the same time, possibly level the platform as Roy was mentioning. And I think that possibly was included in the doctor's estimate.
It was.
I mean, I don't want this to cost us a fortune if we're gonna undo some of it.
What, I mean, there's no reason why we can't know what the bracket cost was. It's not, I mean, it's a sole source. It's not, there's not a ton of people that.
Yeah, I think Pete's original estimate that he got from Doctors, which is 1 year old now, was a little over 5,000, if I'm not mistaken, for fabrication of the bracket. But I'm not certain that that included the installation. And I'm also aware that pricing a year ago is very different than pricing today.
Yeah.
Supplies being not always there, and also demand for contractors is way up. So we would probably want to get a more current estimate from Doctors.
Okay, so let me ask this, Roy, and you may be able to answer this. If we replace that bracket, it's currently broke, is that something that they would have replaced anyway, that same location? It's not like we're gonna put a bracket in there and then have to move it and put another one in? Not in addition, but.
Yeah, I mean, I think that one's got to go back no matter what. Maybe we fortify it with a brace or another bracket, but I don't think you would take that one out. And just my understanding is that quote includes the remeasuring of this unique piece, and the leveling and installation of the bracket. So yeah, and the other thing I might add is that the platform was designed. The code is a person per square foot, so you could, like on the grand opening, that thing was filled with people. And you know, as Kristen said, right now I wouldn't allow that many people on it per square foot. Like you wouldn't fill the platform because it is compromised at some level. So, and then that's a safety thing. So the maximum amount of people that could try to get on there would be supported. And right now that wouldn't be the case. If a few people go on, it's probably fine, but you don't know for sure what the condition is. Let me just share that.
So basically, we're fixing it. If we vote for this motion, we're fixing it for this season, which I think is probably the route we should go. I feel it's the route we should go, but if you don't, I guess you vote accordingly. So all those in favor of fixing the walkway and the ramp, signify by saying aye or raise your hand. Opposed?
Peter, you said ramp.
The ramp to the fishing ramp and the ramp to it,
That's the walkway.
the walkway.
Walkway and the ramp. But do you mean platform?
Yes.
Okay, then I'll vote yes.
All right. Motion carried. Ian, go.
Okay,
move
so
this
let's-
thing along.
I guess the second motion would be to continue with the FEMA funding, correct, Val? And pursuing that versus a larger scale look at the platform and extra costs. Are we if we're confident that it's been sort of abnormal conditions that have created the problems, I feel like we should just pursue the FEMA money and get it repaired back to its original state.
As opposed to hiring SLR to do a mitigation. redo.
Yes. Because it's from the discussions tonight, it seems like the platform has been behaving and has been doing what it was designed and built to do. It was outside, it was other things that have affected it, but the platform itself is stable. And it seems, I don't know if the mitigation is going to get us anything more than we need or it will help us at all.
Can I ask, is this the third time that we have asked FEMA for funds for this, or is this?
Might be the second.
Okay, I'm just thinking of what you said earlier about if we've already asked 3 times.
It would be the second. The first time was Tropical Storm Irene, and they were mid-construction, and the walkway washed out. We had FEMA funds to restore that walkway.
Okay.
Before the platform was installed.
I remember that.
Peter, weren't you thinking we'd move forward with the bigger mitigation?
Yeah.
Wasn't that your thought?
My thought was, well, if we have X amount of dollars of FEMA money to repair it now, if we do it the way FEMA wanted us to.
Okay.
And I think what we decided, what we just decided was to get it usable and then pursue the idea of being able to hire an engineer and build the walkway in a manner that the walkway is not going to go anywhere, and in turn shoring up the platform itself.
Okay. All right. I'm fine with that. I have been confused throughout this entire process of which direction. So yes. Okay. So I'd make a motion to I guess, is it where I'll be applying for the how do you want this stuff?
Pursue. I would say pursue.
Pursue funds for mitigation.
The FEMA, yeah, I'm not sure what you call it, Val?
Hazard mitigation funding.
Hazard mitigation. There you go.
Make a motion to pursue hazard mitigation funding for this platform.
Which would include the engineering costs, right, Val?
Correct.
Or hopefully.
Somebody going to second that?
I'll second.
Further discussion? I think we've waltzed all around this and we know we have an idea of what we want, or we have an idea of the direction we're headed anyway. So any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye, raise your hand.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried.
Thank you, Peter.
Thank you. And thank you, Roy and Kristen, very much for your.
Yes, I appreciate your time, Roy. I know we're kind of picking your brain to try to figure out which way we want to go, and I understand what you do for a living, so we appreciate the pro bono stuff.
Sure. Thanks for having me.
Pre-investment.
Yeah, there you go.
Thank you, Roy.
Thank you, everyone.
Take care, y'all.
Thank you, Chris.
What is that? 3? Come on.
Water Commission. Water abatement application or request.
Okay, for 613 Rockydale Road.
Correct. And if folks had a chance to review the notes, this request is for the March water billing, where the bill was significantly higher than past bills because of a cracked water meter. The meter was replaced, and the belief is that the meter cracked because it was in a location that was not adequately insulated. That's the information I have.
So,
And Jacqueline Fifi is here with us.
so water went through
the
water
meter.
was going through the meter
Right,
and being recorded,
correct,
but the meter itself was cracked.
correct.
Unfortunately, it's been in the past, it's always been that if water has gone through the meter, then they're responsible for it. And I don't necessarily see that changing this time around. And I know it's hard, but I think the precedent's been set, and we are not in the habit of changing that. But Jacqueline, if you want to plead your case, you got to unmute.
Unmute yourself.
Jacqueline, you've got to unmute. There you go.
I don't know where the usage, previous usage for 12/15 was 116,000. The previous, December bill previous for 9/16 was only 71,000, and that current, well, excuse me, current one was 80,000. Well, where'd you get the previous for 12/15, 116,000?
Where? Yes,
The-
I don't. I
The
don't.
bill
under-
the copy that you got, it says previous 12/15/20, 116,000. Okay,
Yeah.
for the December bill, the current 12/12/19 was 80,000. Or something, I can't remember exactly, but it
Yeah,
didn't
Different.
jive.
Difference of 36,000 gallons.
yeah.
I know it doesn't take much of a leak for much of a leak for a long period of time. I mean, leaky toilets can severely increase the bill. And if you had a cracked meter, and I understand it, if it's under your home and you don't know it, it's. But if it, I mean, our policy's been, if it goes through the meter, it's your water.
Well, part of that too, I can't even shut it off. Because it's covered up with dirt. That's part of the water department problem.
I have a couple of questions, Speaker.
Go ahead, Joel.
It's Valerie reported that the meter froze, it was cracked. Is that correct, Valerie?
Yes, that's what I was told.
So has the new, obviously a new meter's been put in, but has the reason it cracked, I guess, either cold underneath the, I think that's a double wide, right, Jackie?
Yes.
Has that area in itself been repaired, insulated and things for or just left and we might have to.
It's got insulation around it now, some blue board.
And I guess I have to, I guess it went through part of the meter. It didn't go through all of it because it was cracked. It came out of the meter. And the meter is owned by the town. And it's not like if this was a leaky toilet or a drippy faucet in the shower head, you wouldn't have much sympathy with me either. But I have to kind of agree somewhat. We got to eat some of this, I think. That's my opinion, because it's the meter that cracked. And I think the homeowner is responsible for some too because of lack of insulation around it or what. But, I mean, she's lived there, I don't know how many years that double wide's been there, and this is the first time it's froze. So I'm just gonna.
Joel, you said that it didn't all go through the meter. Well, what went through the meter, she's getting charged for.
It read it, but it didn't get into her house. It went through a cracked meter.
Well,
right?
that may be so, but there may be there might have been more that came out of it that didn't actually didn't actually register on the meter.
I mean, we're seeing bills right here in front of us, $66, $72 a quarter, all the way back now 2 years ago, almost 2 years, in October of 2019. So
That gives you an idea of the range.
yep.
Yeah, and Jackie, you asked about the 116,000 in the March 29th bill. That's because we've actually, I think the examples that are here tonight skipped a cycle, and that's why that you see that jump. You go
Okay.
from 80,000. I think you have a next billing cycle that brings you up to 116, but we're still seeing that your usage jumped from 9,000 to 91,000, and so obviously that's the crack. And yeah, I would, Joel, I'm interested in knowing more. You know, as you said, I think if the water's going into the meter and it's actually flooding out of the meter because the meter's cracked, I do feel that is a different case than if the water is flowing perfectly through a meter into a particular item like a toilet or a sink that has water running. I do think that's a different case.
So let me ask you this: if the line broke a foot beyond the meter because it froze, would you have the same feeling? Because the issue is that the meter froze and broke.
Yeah.
I feel like what we can't know is how accurate that meter was if it was frozen. That's what I sort of am stuck on right now.
They can't overread regardless. They can underread, but they can't overread. Is the way it's always been explained to us.
And just for comparison purposes, bill, the current bill from April is compared to the March bill from last year. So that's the comparison. So they're basically a year apart. And then this other one was just another comparison to show just a trend of the pattern.
The water, the average water usage.
Yeah, the typical. Yeah. Not intended to be consecutive.
I don't know. It's a tough thing because if it happened to me, I'd be pretty annoyed, but also I know that it's my responsibility. If things aren't insulated properly, and as you said, Peeker, if it cracks a foot past the meter, that is my responsibility. It's not the town's responsibility. But it's just one of those things where it's a shame to see this happen, and I wish there were better ways as a homeowner that you could, or a renter, that you can figure out these problems, but there's no way to know unless you know.
I mean, and the other side of that is we own the meter, but you're responsible from the curb stop in.
Yeah.
And you know, I hate to say it, but it's the way we've done it, and it's gone through the meter. And if you guys want to do something different, then somebody make a motion. But that's
I don't think we can. I think we have to be consistent. And, you know, we've had discussions before with other homeowners who have had similar issues, and the town has remained consistent in terms of their policy. And I think we need to do that. I think it's difficult to open that up on a case by case, because it's, you know, I don't think we're able to do that, as much as it pains me to say that.
And I can say that in other situations, the town has arranged individual payment plans for property owners in similar situations.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly would not be opposed to a payment plan, interest-free for whatever it took. You know, no penalties or anything, because obviously it is a hardship, but I mean, unfortunately, the water went through the meter.
I differ with you, Peter. It went through the meter. You're correct in saying, and it went through and read it through the meter, and part of it came out of the meter. 100,000 gallons came out of, or 90,000 gallons came out of the meter.
Peeker question, where is the curb stop?
It's in the town right away or the state right away.
So whether it goes through the meter or not, landowner's responsible from the curb stop in, right?
That's correct. And they're responsible for keeping the meter from freezing. The issue is that if, you know, where we have the issue is where we have a bad line between the meter and the curb stop. Unless we can, unless it's really leaking, and the way we've changed it now is that we have the ability to shut it off until it's fixed. Because that was a concern before, was it's not my problem. I'm not paying for it. I'm not paying for that water, so I'm not going to worry about it as long as I've got water in the house. And that's when we put the stop to that.
So there's no way for someone to know that this is happening until a bill is generated, correct? Unless they're under there.
Hear it, or the water comes out. I mean, we had a case down to Blazes Trailer Park where water was boiling up in the middle of the dooryard, and that bill was thousands of dollars. And you know, they had a skating rink in the middle of the driveway, and we didn't abate that one.
That was from a meter pit that was out on 116 before you go into Blazes, right, Peeker?
Right, but the line, the
completely went through the meter, didn't coming out of the meter, so to speak.
Correct. It went through and it came out a hole in the pipe somewhere else. But it, you know, the point is, it's your responsibility to if that meter gets smashed and you don't get any, or freezes and breaks and you don't get any water, you know, you're going to be screaming for us to come fix it. I mean, like I said, I would waive any interest or penalties and allow her to take as long as it takes to pay it off, as long as she set up a plan with the office. But I don't see the ability to mitigate the cost of the water.
Yeah.
We need to make a positive motion. Is that correct, Val?
Correct.
Okay. So I'll make a motion that we, what do you want to call it? Remediate the bill?
I would say if make a motion to, that the bill stands, that's not a negative motion, and that we'll accept payments, interest and penalty free.
Okay.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
How come you people in the office didn't bring it up as a red flag when they noticed when it was red? That should have came up as a red flag.
I think it did. I think you've only got 1 month that's high. The minute they found out, they came up. The way it works is
no, it's 3 months.
Right. You only get red every 3 months.
We should not. we should be known about that before that hand, so we could have got at it quicker. I haven't been home. Was taking care of a dying mother. So I want her home.
Now, the people in the town wouldn't know, Jackie, until they read the meter. I mean, when they only read it every 3 months, unless somebody thought something was wrong, somebody could ask to request special reading.
Jackie, did I hear you say that you haven't been home this winter?
Not much.
So let me ask you, has the house been heated or?
Yeah, it's been heated, but I leave the house at 4:30 on 3 days a week, then get home until the next night.
No, I was just wondering if
No,
I thought
it's heated.
you'd gone away. Maybe it was like 3 months you've gone away and maybe you turned the heat down to like 45 or 50.
No.
That
it's
could
just-
affect the crawl space under your unit. That's what,
No,
okay, thank you.
taking care of mother, and I just come home and it's 7 hours, and that's it.
Okay.
I think you need a second to my motion, Peter.
Second.
Any further discussion?
And is it safe to add at the end where the water customer works with the office on a payment plan?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye or raise your hand. Opposed?
No,
Motion carried. I'm sorry, Jacqueline, but that's the way our water ordinance reads.
Yeah, well, I don't drink the water anyways, because it's poison. Got too much chlorine in it.
Alrighty, onward.
where'd my
Water Commissioner, application for new water construction, Paul Jackman, 23 Mountain View Street.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Can I add something to this?
Yeah.
Well, we got a motion and a second, so we can have discussion.
Yeah.
Can we add on this that all excavation and replacement, whatever, and connection to our shut off must be approved and reviewed by our water operator?
If you had a chance to look at the notes in the report, there are a series of recommendations.
Yep.
Compliance
Okay.
with the Bristol water ordinance, compliance with the permit to perform work in the highway right of way, that VTUMs be contacted at least 2 days in advance to witness the installation and to perform the connection to the curb stop, that the applicant be responsible for the $500 base connection fee plus all the other stuff, and that we include a copy of what to do if you have a water leak handout in with whatever approved permit materials get distributed.
Those were all the things I was gonna say, Val.
I thought
Val
so.
already thought of them.
Valerie, I'd like to add one word to number 3.
Sure.
After installation, the actual installation of the line. 3 words of the line.
Installation of the line. Okay.
It just says installation and the curbs, perform the connection to the curb stop.
Okay.
We want to make sure if it's a plastic line, we see a tracer wire in that ditch.
Well, in this
I think it's
copper, so
copper.
Okay.
Yeah, this
Then
the
that's even
tracer
better.
wire did not need
I
to be
figured.
brought up, but
So, Paul, which line are you connecting to? Are you connecting to the 2-inch copper line that comes down on your side of the street, or are you crossing the street and hooking to the new HDPE water line?
Make sure you unmute.
Unmute. Paul, you have to unmute.
Yeah. Click on the Zoom and click unmute.
Jerry's doing it.
oh, I
There we
got
go.
You got it.
There
got
you
it.
go.
Are you good?
It's a good
Yeah.
thing she's there, Paul. You'd be lost.
it.
Yeah, you're right. I can tell you.
I wouldn't throw stones if I lived in a glass house, Baker.
Well, I told you, my wife is the one that got me up and running tonight.
Good
I
job,
know,
Heather.
right? Ian wouldn't come over, so I had to get somebody to do it. Sorry, Paul.
It takes a village.
Yes. To keep me operating, it does.
The line that goes to the hippie housing.
To the
New line that you put in that you bored under the road.
okay.
The rest
You
of
know,
That's
you know, there's-
co-housing.
You know, there's a line that runs on your side of the street as well that they're gonna have to be careful they don't cut off.
Aren't they supposed to be doing 211 and get dig safe out there?
It's not, we don't belong, our water district doesn't belong to Dig Safe, and I'm pretty sure there's a 2-inch copper water line that comes down the south side of Mountain View Street to the Sprout House. If I'm not mistaken.
Is there a recommended one that he should connect to?
Well, he should connect to the bigger one of the two, which is on the other
Okay.
side of the road.
All right, so just something to be aware of if there is
Speaker,
one there.
just so you know, if they do call dig safe, they're supposed to call the office and get a hold of the water department so that the water can go out and
Yeah, they, Dig Safe
Good.
tells you, you might want to notify anybody else in the area. I'm not worried about it. I know who Paul's contractor is. I just want to make sure that he lets them know that there's another line there. So
fair enough.
I
That's good.
don't have any fears that it'll be done right.
Okay, that's easy enough. And he knows to contact the water department.
Right.
Excellent.
Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Raise your hand. Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
Who motioned and seconded?
I motioned. I think Ian seconded, didn't you, Ian?
No,
I
reverse.
did.
I motioned.
Joel did.
Good.
Somebody motioned.
No, I motioned. I motioned. Joel said he seconded it, so.
Either way, Paul, you got permission to hook your water up.
Thank you very much.
Yay!
And the house is looking great, by the way. I walk by every day with the kids and they love seeing the construction.
Thank you.
Alrighty, onward.
Right.
Now
Town
we're on to the
green.
page you don't have printed.
No, I've got, we're on 5 now, right? Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, that line I've got, and then the next one I don't, and then line 7 I've got, so we're good.
I'm not sure if they're gonna do the curb cut or not.
You probably want to unmute, Paul, before you say
Um,
something about us you don't
he's
want to
good.
say.
No,
Or mute, yeah.
your curb cut was all set. That
Yeah,
was in
you're
the-
good to
the
go.
Consent, that was in the
Okay.
consent agenda right at the beginning. It was part of a multiple agenda. So yeah, you're all set with that.
It's bedtime when you're moving and packing.
Okay, unmute.
Yeah, right.
Mute, not unmute.
Mute.
Mute. There you go.
I'll mute you.
I was wrong.
There, I
Town
muted them.
Green Park use application, Bobcat Cafe Food Truck off of West Street.
Didn't they already ask for this, Val?
No, this was actually part of, what you're thinking of was the Harvest Festival. We were talking.
No, I thought
No,
Bobcat Cafe had asked
They
for something like
withdrew.
this.
They withdrew.
Oh, okay.
They withdrew.
Right,
So they
Okay.
had asked, but they changed their mind and now they changed
Okay.
their mind again.
right. But this is similar to what we talked about recently with the Harvest Festival,
Mhm.
Harvest Festival and food trucks being on West Street. So this is similar to that, but it's also broader in that they are looking for, or a goal is to create more of a Friday night event scene, which might be a little bit beyond this application. So in terms of this applicant being able to control those other things. But anyway, that's what this application is looking for.
And they're looking for one night a week?
Friday nights.
Yeah, Friday nights.
Starting in June, and the application itself is open-ended. So the select board might want to consider whether to make it just this year only, and if they want to continue it next year, they'd have to reapply, or if this is intended to be something that's ongoing until it's not.
I mean,
You
I
have
think we
further
should limit
details,
it to
Meredith?
2021.
But I believe Jennifer's on.
Oh, there.
There she is, Erin.
Hi. Yeah, we're just intending this to be for 2021.
And through to fall, or?
I don't know, maybe at least through August.
Until the snow flies.
Yeah.
We'll
So August.
kind of see how it goes.
Oh, no.
Valerie, if would they have to apply to for a park permit?
That's what this is.
This is the Town Green Park permit.
Can we have a caveat in there if, you know, if it doesn't go well, Bruce gets a lot of complaints, he's down there all the time, him and his officers, that we can at least have him come to a meeting or come back in and talk with us or suspend it?
You know, I think the easier way to do it, Joel, would be to give them a month, and contingent on the outcome, we'd extend it.
Yeah, we've done that like up on the Bartlett Falls and stuff. So.
But I think, why don't we get a motion on the floor here so we can have discussion the way we're supposed to?
Sure.
Make a motion to approve the application.
I'll second it.
All right, now we can discuss it.
Okay. I'd like to just, you know, what if we, you know, if Eric says, you know, the barrels are full of trash and this and that, and what's going to happen? I mean, with the food truck up the Bartlett's, we said they had to take care of their own trash.
Go ahead, Jennifer.
And I'm right here. Yeah. So we did take care of our own trash. We had trash, compost, and recycling, and we took care of it. And the plan is on Friday nights that we will also do that same thing. We will take care of trash, compost, and recycling on Friday night as well.
Okay.
Yep.
And that's part of the permit anyway, Joel. It says they have to bring, it's a pack in, pack out, so they have to bring their own stuff. Jen, you may be able to answer it. You were talking about creating a community event with vendors, artists. I'm assuming that if that's going to happen, all of those people would then apply for a park permit. It's not something you're going to have get everybody to come under one permit.
Question, what would that look like? Would it all fall under one park permit, or would they all have to apply for their own? And provide certificates of insurance, or if they need that, like what would that look like?
Yeah, I think if I'm thinking right, they all have to apply for their own. Is that right, Val?
Well, let's ask Meredith.
Well, so let's take Harvest Fest for an example. So Rob and the rec department takes care of the vendors and making sure that they have the proper paperwork, the insurance certificates, or if they're serving beer, that the licenses are up to date. So I think just it would be nice if it was one application, I guess maybe a scheduled of what would be happening on the Friday, given maybe 2 weeks before that Friday. So let's just take example, you know, Fish is playing on the bandstand. You know,
nice.
I think we just want to know who's playing. That way we can, you know, if it was Fish, obviously we're going to need a lot more police coverage for that. But
I don't know that fits in COVID guidelines.
Yeah. I think if we get too many applications, it could get a little messy. But you know, whatever you guys decide, I can definitely work around.
I see it says.
Well, the thing, you know, if we do it all under one and the application is through the Bobcat, then the Bobcat's going to be liable for anything that ultimately that goes wrong. I mean, and I'm not saying that there's going to be a problem, but you know, if somebody does have a problem, it's going to come back on the permit's yours, so it's going to come back onto the Bobcat.
Yeah, as the event organizer, it would be their responsibility.
Yeah. I think that's under one permit would be fine with me. What about the thought of just eliminating the other vendors, artists, and musicians, and until at least the governor says we're going to be somewhat fully open by July 4th? My concern is June 4th, those 4 weeks, 4 Friday nights. How are you going to control that, Jen or Aaron? I guess it's Aaron.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think our plans are definitely contingent on what the governor says going forward and what happens. We're not set on on the vision yet because of that. But either way, if the food truck could be there, that would be great. And if we happen to be able to have music and other people, that would be great too, but we're not looking to have huge crowds when we shouldn't.
Well, I guess having a huge crowd is really not your control, because if people stop and get out of the car, you can,
Right, but if it's just the
you
truck.
want them to come, obviously, but you can't control, say, well, sorry, y'all got to get back in the car. I've got more.
Right, if it's just the food truck and not music for people to hang out and listen to, it could be more of a flowing situation.
Geez, Joel, I
Yeah,
thought as of June 1st, they were saying 500 or 900 people could be
Yeah,
congregating
I guess-
outside.
Yeah, I was just trying to look that up, actually.
Yeah, I think it's, well, God, I don't know that could we have 900 people safely on our, on our park? I doubt it, but.
And just what would, when you say consumption of alcohol would be, the area would be included, is that going to be a fenced off area or just painted line on the grass or?
No, we'll get some chains and
It needs to be roped off physically.
yeah, there's definitely a chain situation and maybe
Meet
some
the state's requirement.
Stanchions.
stanchions.
I was waiting for her to say we're gonna
Hang on,
handcuff them. to
everybody's
different
ankle that has a beer
locations.
has to have a chain around it.
Yeah, their stanchions can be found as well as chain.
Yeah, I'm pretty familiar with that process.
And you're obviously applying for your special event permit for that too, right?
Yeah, each one, I think, right? Individually.
Each Friday night individually.
I think so. Is that
For the alcohol special event permit, I believe so. I mean, they
think
might,
so.
I'm sure they have a way that you can do a repeat event, but you'd have to talk to them about that.
Okay.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I thought maybe you could put each of the dates on that one event, that one special event.
That was my
Permit.
question. too.
But
That'd
that's
make
not
it
our-
easier.
That's not
Nope,
ours.
that's not ours.
Right.
Bruce, are you on? Do you have any concerns?
No, as long as you're following all proper guidelines, I don't have any issues.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't see this causing any problems. I think it's going to be a great event. I think it's a much needed event. I don't think we're going to get 900 people on the green that first night. There'll be a few, but I think our green will be able to accommodate them quite well. And then, yeah, I think this is going to be great.
Well, I don't, I see a local upstanding business that doesn't want to tarnish their name. I don't see them doing anything that's going to be not wanted. And
Yeah.
I would guess that you'll police things a certain amount too. So
Yeah.
I don't have any fears.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
So are we leaving this for 2021, leaving it open-ended, or do we want to see them in a month to make sure everything's going the way we want it to go, or what's
I
your
say we
plan?
give it to them through the 2021 season, and if there's some issue, then we can just.
Address it
ask
at
for
the time.
back. We can
And
talk.
I recommend that the rec department coordinate the other
Other vendors.
activities and vendors and all
Yep.
that, that it
Mhm.
not be on Bobcat's application to manage.
I don't think I want them responsible.
I wouldn't think.
We
they'd
understand
want
their goal, but that's not their responsibility.
it.
Oh, wait. So is the rec department okay with that, Meredith?
Well, so
Because
I'm
that
not
change-
shopping
that
for
changes-
vendors. I'm not gonna be, so
Yeah.
if somebody wants to play, I think I, out of respect, would want to follow up with the Bobcat and
Right.
somehow they're, if there's a band that wants to play that Friday night, I think it should be in communication with the Bobcat and the rec department. And yes, they can fill out their own form. That way we know who's playing on the bandstand.
Exactly.
But I can't go and shop for vendors right now.
No.
So they need to.
No, I don't think I was thinking that. I thought maybe Aaron or Jen would have somebody that they were already in discussion with and just say, if you're gonna play, you need to apply and
Right.
get your own permit. I don't think they're expecting you to do that.
But why
Mary.
is this different than Fest or 4th of July? Where they have people come, they have vendors and we don't have anything to do with that. I could see the Bobcat letting Meredith know who might be there. And if she had concerns, she could, voice it then. I don't understand why we would have to have folks do this individually.
Yeah.
The only reason for it, Darla, is because it would all be an under Bobcat and they'd be liable for anything that went
Correct.
wrong.
I mean, and they should be. It's their event. It's the same as if Core put on something in Diz Pocock. We take full responsibility with bringing vendors in. I think the Bobcat, if this is their event that they want to do, it's their responsibility for any music and the vendors. It's all under their name.
Yeah.
And it would be just the vendors they wanted. You couldn't say, well, I'm going to go and sit up on the other corner of the park because they're there and there's going to be a lot of people. I think.
Yeah, it would be. I think it's. Yeah.
If they've got the park for Friday night, then and somebody comes and asks Meredith for the park for Friday night, they don't get it unless they're through the Bobcat.
That's right.
Interesting.
Agreed.
Okay.
Yeah,
well,
because I think I
everybody?
think it's good. Yeah, I think the Bobcat, you're going to be curating your vendors and music anyway, so I think you'd want to be involved in doing that.
Yeah.
And I think it keeps it consistent with what we do already for similar events.
Yeah.
Good. I'm glad we clarified that.
Yeah.
Clear as mud.
Okay.
All right. Further
I think
discussion?
it's exciting.
Yeah.
So wait a minute, do we need to modify that motion then?
I don't see why. If everything's going to be under them, it's.
Yeah, I made the motion to approve their application, which has them covering the vendors and the music.
Meredith, did you get that we're gonna, that the park is gonna be theirs on Friday night and that if anybody else applies,
It's
they
booked.
don't get it unless the Bobcat wants them there?
Yeah, pretty much. So how it will work is through our site, you wouldn't be able to register for that site because it's already blocked out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Perfect.
Okay.
Further discussion?
Does it feel important for Meredith and Aaron and Jennifer to have some communication so we know what to expect on the park?
Yeah, I would really like to just do like check in with them before the event and then do a follow-up Saturday, Sunday, or Monday, just to see if there's something that we can change and make better. Like just checking out the garbages or anything like that. But I feel confident in the Bobcat and the way
I do
they
too.
operate.
Yeah.
We're not going to have any language in there. If things don't go well by the middle of July, we've gotten complaints. I'm not saying we're going to. We're not going to have any language in there that says the board has the authority to shut it down.
Or check in.
Yeah. We have that authority anyway without that language. So I'm not concerned
Okay,
about
we do
that at
then.
all.
Okay.
Yeah,
Do we? Oh, we do have that authority then to use the park.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We can revoke any permit
Yeah, we can do anything.
with reason.
Yeah, I'm not concerned. Just the event, the food truck that they did at the Bartlett Falls, I think went very well. I know Bruce reported back on that and had no issues with any of the trash. I'm not even thinking in a negative way about anything that could happen because I think it's
I'm
gonna only
not
be good
thinking
stuff.
of that. I'm not thinking of that either, Ian, with the Bobcat. They run a very, very good business. But I'm thinking, the band gets there, as Darla would say, Fish is there and playing, and they're going to play to 10 o'clock and the music's cranked up and this and that. And we get complaints along the back of the park. I was in my 18 when we couldn't play a guitar on the back of the park and you got run out of town. So that was a few years ago. Right, Peter?
It wasn't so much a guitar why you guys got run out of town now, be honest.
I didn't know that Joel played guitar. I want to hear.
No, I didn't. But anyway, I just want to I'm not saying the Bobcat, but some things you invite people to a party and sometimes you can't have all that. You can't have control over it all.
So Joel, just to follow up on that, because we've reached out to some of the folks that live around the town green, the music stops at 9. Everybody gets all their stuff out by 9.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's perfect.
Okay. All right.
All right.
Let's vote.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Raise your hand.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Good luck.
Yeah,
Looking forward to it.
can't wait.
Thank you.
Recreation Department, proposal to purchase a bus or van for program transportation. Better read the whole word.
All yours, Meredith.
So the rec department and the hub is looking into the possibilities of either purchasing a bus or 15 passenger vehicle or renting or leasing. So we've put some thought together and figured out what the possibilities are. One of the reasons why we really were looking forward to possibly having a bus is being able to just go to Sycamore or Eagle Park or any of the parks that are part of the town of Bristol. Bristol is a great place, but it's hard to get to, say, Newly for mountain biking, or just going over to the Mad River Valley, or, part of the hub going to, say, a concert in Burlington. So we're looking at avenues of the possible bus transportation, and we just want to ask you guys how we could go about it. One of the things is we're on a list for ACTR, that's Addison County Transit, for one of their buses that they'll end up selling through their fleet. So I just want to make sure that we're ready to be able to do something about a bus transportation. And I wanted to start here with you guys so we know that we're doing it correctly. And just to follow up, I do know that the hub had a bus back in 2011. It was a partnership with one of the people that worked at the hub. It seemed to have done very well. So that, I know that it has happened in the past for a bus being available.
It must have been before my time.
It was
remember
when
a bus.
when Jim Lockridge was there, and Big Heavy
yeah.
World was the owner of the van, and
Yep, we had an MOU
yeah.
for a season,
It's-
and it worked well. I mean, it worked well. I mean, it was great for the it keeps the department competitive. Most other departments have transportation of some sort. It's tough, the rec department it's been tough during COVID. It's, we've got a competitor in our backyard with with the after school program, that's been tricky to navigate that relationship. And I think this would be another way that we can keep things exciting and new and make another offer to our community.
So there was some issues when we worked through that before, Darla, and maybe you can help refresh my memory. Liability was a big one.
I was going to ask that.
I'm trying to remember.
Another one was permission.
Parental permission you're talking about.
Parental permission. I think we had a couple of times where parents didn't know that their kids had got on the bus and gone somewhere.
Well, there were permission slips if we're collected.
Whether they were
If somebody-
officially filled out,
Yeah.
yes.
So if somebody called after the fact and said their kid was, it wasn't like the staff let somebody on.
No.
Yeah,
No,
it
I'm
wasn't
not
like
saying,
that.
I'm
No,
not blaming
I'm just
anything on the
clarifying.
staff.
No, I'm just clarifying for the viewing public.
And then, a driver, and I understand that you guys are willing to get your passenger endorsement and give up your time to get that, which I think is great. I just, it's something to maintain. Have you reached out to anybody like Betcha to see if, and that's not cost effective at all?
So we have all those costs. So it costs $70 per hour plus 2 hours to rent a bus. So per day, if we do a trip, we're gone for 8 hours, as it'll cost $700 a day to rent from Betcha. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a payment a day.
That's, yeah, it's, and
Yeah.
Alex made a fantastic document just to kind of break down of a, we don't have officially a cost of a van, of a bus or 5-passenger van, whatever we end up getting, or 15-passenger, because we don't know yet. We don't know what it costs, but we have a high estimation of just trying to break down the different avenues, because we've been trying to figure this out, at least for the summer, because we have summer camps this year where we know we have some trips planned that we have to figure out some way to transport people. And then the long term, we would like to be able to not only take the hub on trips, but also allow for the rec department to go on trips. And, like Meredith said, go over to the Mad River Valley so we can expand our mountain biking, because it's such a fantastic program that continues to grow. And pretty quickly, the youth in this area are going to outgrow the trails that they can ride to easily. So we want to be able to facilitate those, and also facilitate and coordinate outings for the greater community to increase accessibility within Vermont. We know, like, I know Darla's on several boards where it comes up. I've been on several where transportation is a massive issue in Vermont. Our little towns are fantastic. However, we're isolated. So getting from point A to point B, where there's all this fantastic culture, is really challenging. And especially for some of the folks in our community that maybe they have to work constantly, so their kids can't, maybe they don't have the access to transportation, maybe they don't have the money to pay for gas, but all these things. But I think there's definitely a way for us to be able to problem solve this, so we have reliable transportation, so that we can, as a rec department, as a community, support those people, and then help them broaden their horizons and engage more with the greater community, and have more. I think Alex and I are both co-hosts. Alex, do you want to share the document that you made up, just so we have it as a reference?
Yep. 1 second.
So while you guys are getting that, have you talked to or called Middlebury Transit? Because they've gone out of business or going out of business. And I know they have a bunch of vans and cars and stuff that they are trying to offload.
We haven't. I called them a while ago to get quotes from them, and they were even more expensive for transportation. They were more expensive than Betcha, so I didn't talk to them again. But I didn't realize they went out of business.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's gone out of business, or he's moved some of his business up north.
Right.
So I reach out. Bill might, I saw the van, all their cars down there and that with for sale signs on. So they may have one
Are
that
those
might fit the bill.
The 3 black vans that are on Route 7 in Middlebury?
Yeah.
So the cheapest one was $25,000. And they were very nice.
Yep.
But okay, so that's who that you're referencing. Okay.
Yep.
So this is a breakdown of the costs. So our 3 options that we've been exploring, 3 main ones, are Betcha, which, like I said, so it's $700 per hour plus 2 hours. So we pay for the driver from their house, and so there's an hour tacked on to 2 hours tacked on to any trip we take.
$700 a day.
700, yeah, for 8 hours. Yeah, $70 an hour. Sorry, yeah, and $700 a day for 8 hours.
And that's basically because the driver gets paid regardless, correct? I mean, if they're driving or if they're sitting and waiting for you.
Correct. Yep.
Right.
As long because they're out.
Right.
So
right, I get it. Yeah, they're working.
Yeah, exactly. But that does cover so if we work with Betcha, that covers our insurance is covered. They cover insurance basically. They're done. It's done. Of course, for camps, at least, we can guarantee that all of the permission slips, like transportation waivers, would be signed by parents, because they'd be sent home to the parents specifically to sign. Really, so Betcha is really only super feasible for camps, I think, not so much for any larger picture, at least not for the hub. That's pretty quickly out of our price range for something that we're trying to offer, like trips that we're trying to offer for kids, mostly for teens, for free, or at least maybe 1 or 2, but not often. So that's one option. The next is borrow from Hannaford Career Center. So I've spoken with them a couple of times. Hannaford Career Center has a deal, at least last summer it was, where we can borrow a bus from them for $25 a day, which is fantastic. We need to have our licensure. So we would be the drivers. And we would need to cover insurance. So we would need to tack it on to our town's insurance. So the liability would still be there. And that is also only for the summertime. That is not something that we can do during the school year because they're utilizing their buses. And then the last is buying a bus, which the startup costs, so for a single year, just so you know, we're estimating maybe a bus will cost $12,000 or so, $12,500 on a like very high end. And then we have the associated costs for just, you know, registration, inspection, and all those other things, just to guarantee. And then, okay, yeah, so we have initial cost, $12,900, just about $13,000. And then we have the associated costs. And so most of those would only be, some of those would only be one-time costs, like the big chunk of money, the 13,000 would only be once, and hopefully we wouldn't even be 13,000. And then the rest of it, we have recurring costs, like Alex has shown. And of course, some of these costs will fluctuate, where some years maintenance would be almost nothing, and then other years it might be that we have to replace the something, and it's a lot higher. So it varies. However, overall, this would be a capital investment for the town as opposed to renting it. And it would provide us more flexibility and more investment for the community. So we can allow for these, like, you know, I think maybe Meredith brought up at one point, like the ability to be able to go to the Flynn, like there's a really cool play. And so we can take 16 community members, first come, first serve, to the Flynn to Burlington. We can partner with the library on a regular basis so they can go to different museums and different things, and it just offers all this stuff. So it's a passionate project that we've been, as has been dealt with and is being discussed in a lot of towns right now, and has been discussed in our town. It's something that I know the Rector and the Hub has been spending a lot of time trying to figure out, and brainstorming all the amazing things that could be done.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Taylor, I will give you, you probably saw one of those vans like that, but it was a Ford one. It was over to the Legion a few years ago.
Yeah.
The Sons bought one, and it's the reason why they're getting rid of it with 187,000 miles on it. It's been well used.
Yeah.
And the Sons didn't have good luck with theirs. They still got it, but they've had to put some money into it and stuff.
Yeah.
So, I'll be transparent and tell you, you know, I do drive school bus for Betcha Transit on sports trips only. I don't do a daily run. And
You're hired.
Girls, for getting your license. I think the best bet is to try. I'd like to see you put a little more focus on possibly, what if you went with that Hannaford thing, $25 a day to use a bus? My God, that's a bargain. And you said, well, why don't we try to focus our trips? Yeah, I get it. You want to go in the middle of winter time, but try to focus your trips more from middle June to 1st of September, just a night here. And as Peter said, when we had that van from Jim's, that was owned by Big Heavy Road, and we paid a mileage charge to use it. I believe it was, wasn't it, Darrell, or something?
I think so.
Own it, and we didn't have any maintenance on it. I guess we had to cover half the maintenance, but they took care of it all.
Mm-hmm.
I remember one weekend getting a call from my irate town. I wasn't on the board only about a year or so, and my irate town clerk and treasurer saying, "You know where that van is this weekend?"
It was in Maine, right?
It's in Old Orchard Beach with a group.
I think it was in York Beach.
York, Maine.
But yeah, they went really
you
far
get
away.
what I'm coming at. You see what I'm putting down.
That
I think we stopped using it after that.
Okay. Yeah, especially if you're being charged by mile. I understand that.
No, they just took off with Jim or Ryan or someone of them. I don't know who exactly. And they went. Somebody had never seen the ocean, so they said, "I'll jump in. We'll go."
Yeah.
I don't think it was quite that cavalier, Joel, but I understand what you're saying.
Yeah. They went to Maine, didn't they? Darrell?
They did go to Maine, yes.
Okay.
But they didn't do it on a
photos.
Oh yeah, they were there, no doubt.
Yep.
So just condensing all the trips into the summer is definitely an option. But it does, so one of the realities that the rec department is looking at is that we're hitting our 40 hours pretty quickly every summer. So also our flexibility, and because we're running camps and then also open hours and events, which is amazing. And we love busyness. And I'm sure Meredith can pop in on this also, but that also means we aren't as flexible and don't have as much time to commit to the other, to as many trips and as many like potentially enriching activities for the community. We also want to be able to offer a lot and flexibility. So I hear that.
I guess what I'm saying is maybe the first year, try it and say, you know what, this is really working well. And we need to do this 360 or 52 weeks a year. And then we'll reevaluate it next year. But if say, you know, it wasn't, we didn't have that many sign up, or we had 18 always sign up. We only got a 15 passenger van and only got a 15 passenger license. That's another thing. I mean, I see the town of Middlebury got a wonderful rec department. I don't see a van in their fleet. I guess
They had a van for years, actually.
They have?
That they did every summer. That was their whole summer programming, was pretty much taking kids and doing, every day they would go somewhere different. At least that's when I was in the rec world. That was their
I've never
summer
seen it in Middlebury Round. I don't know. I'm not saying they don't have one.
It wasn't, they cut a deal somewhere. I mean, they didn't, I don't know that they owned it themselves, Joel. I think you're correct about that. It wasn't marketed as the Bristol or as the Middlebury Rec Department bus, but that was their summer programming.
Okay, so what you're saying, Joel, is you're suggesting that we give this summer a rental feel of things.
You know, that way, you know, Hannaford still owns that bus and the axle falls off, the tire falls off, and God forbid something happens, it's not on you guys, so to speak. It's on, you know, it's not on the town of Bristol. They're going back to who owned that van and why it wasn't safe. You were paying a rent for it a day, and I can't believe you can rent it for that money, but that's great money.
Yeah, so in order to do that, we need to, well, one of us completes the CDL or
Yep.
bus passenger, or we hire somebody who has that ability to drive around. And then maybe that person is wrapped up into our camp counselor. I don't know. I mean, that's been one of the possibilities.
And do we,
either way, you're gonna have to have that person though.
Yeah.
Either you guys are gonna have to get your license or you're gonna have to have somebody in either scenario.
and what is that license speaker? 125, is it?
I don't know.
Passenger B per passenger license?
I have no
Are
idea.
we cover, is the town covering that cost for you and Taylor? I would hope we.
I would be putting it under training.
Yeah.
It's valuable. So, Joel, here's a question. So, say I was to hire somebody who already has a bus license, how much do you think that would be an hour?
Oh, they're gonna be in the neighborhood of between 19 and 20, 22 probably. I don't know. Exactly.
Okay.
I mean, there's
You and
a
I
private
talked.
school right up the road on Hartsgravel Road. It has I ended up negotiating that price, their older bus. I bought that for them. I didn't buy it for them. I mean, I went down, they hired me to go down to Massachusetts and try some buses out, and we picked one out. Red Cedar might be interested in renting it winter to summer too.
Yeah, it's good.
So you brought up, Joel, that what we might see is that people don't sign up. I think so our camps are just about filled, the plan that we know we're going to be using the buses. But then I think we will see, I guess I just want to prepare the board for when we discuss this later, that we won't have as much flexibility this summer as we will during the months afterwards, or even following summers, to be able to run as many programs and have as much going on as we would like to, just because we are quite packed. At least correct me if I'm wrong, Meredith. That's what I'm expecting, and given the number of events we're planning and camps and everything already.
Yeah, our summer is pretty full.
So I'm bringing that up because as we're talking about basically utilizing this summer and figuring out metrics in order to determine the viability and the usefulness of a van, I think we'll hit a max number fairly quickly, because we're still running all of our camps so lean that Alex, Meredith, and I we're trying to figure out how to stretch our hours so that we can run the hub as well at full capacity.
Have you?
And your current camps don't include transportation.
We're figuring, we planned them, we're figuring that out.
Okay.
What, like you say, you go onto Eagle Park or, Sycamore, and I don't know whether it's a day or half day. Have you looked into asking Actor, can you pick us up and drop us off at Sycamore at 9 and pick us back up at 3?
I did not do that. I pretty much, when I spoke to them, I was in search of a bus.
Yep.
But I can definitely follow up with Mary on that and see about.
Because they do have, their crunch time is 6 a.m. till about 9, and then they have, I know a lot of the drivers, and they go home, or then they have to come back and work from 4 to 7, and get their 8 hours that way around. And some of them go home between 10 and 2. They don't have all the same buses on the road, or many of them, and they may want to fill that in, say, hey, we could fill this in. It's going to be, I'm not going to say it's not going to be hard or creative. You're going to have to get a little creative, but I'd hate to sink some money into a van with all the liability, and then to me, it's more the liability than the replacement cost.
So I'm sure you guys have thought about this. Some of the questions that are flying through my mind is, I see your cost productions, but I worry about it's like, okay, where are you getting the money to purchase the van? Where are you getting the money to do the maintenance? I know, Meredith, you said you used the training for the CDL license or the bus endorsement, but all those costs start making your budget higher and higher. So then how do we counteract that? So that, do you think this will then increase your access and the camps and the amount of people that come, that will outweigh the cost?
Yeah,
that you're going to put into this.
Being able to have a bus allows us to venture out during camp hours. And it also gives us a nudge in the sense of, all right, so, my bike camps are a little bit more on the $250 per kid. So if we could go somewhere and actually advertise it, because we're not advertising it this year, it's just more like a scheduling part. So if we can make it happen, that's great. The kids are excited. But if we can't, then there's no sad faces. But next year, if we were like, yes, we have a bus, we're going to go to the Mad River Valley, or the Kingdom Trails or what have you, then that price for that camp does need to adjust a little bit to cover some of those costs.
Meredith.
And that now, oh, sorry, Darla, go ahead.
No, I'm just wondering if you could take advantage of any of the COVID funding that's available for recreation right now for the upstart.
Yeah, so that Vermont After School, one of the things that is cool is that we can put money towards renting a bus. You cannot purchase a bus with that grant that they have going on right now. So we definitely are aware of that. And we've been talking about how that would look if we did that way. And then, obviously the bigger picture of the COVID grants, figuring that out, maybe possibly out of the grant that's being given to the town, be able to carve a piece out of that for such a vehicle. So we're definitely aware of funding that's happening.
And there might be some other grant programs through recreation programs that are offered through the state that might apply in this situation. I'm not familiar with them directly, but. might be.
Hey, Val, is there any concern with VLCT and the town owning a bus and driving, young kids? Is there any concern, do you think, with them?
I have not checked in directly with them about that, but I'm sure, other municipalities have vehicles. I'm sure there's a way to deal with it. And if Meredith and Alex and Taylor go through the training and get their licenses and certificates to be drivers, if that's what they're going to do, then that should be a comfort or assurance to VLCT and the town.
I spoke with VLTC to talk about this
Okay.
and asked that question, and their answer was, well, we don't love it, but towns do it and we'll insure you. But is it their favorite thing? No, because for all the reasons why it's not their favorite thing.
Right.
That makes sense. However, they'll still insure you. It's just it's an increased insurance cost,
Right.
which is part of our overall cost expense.
Right. Yeah.
They'd prefer we wrapped kids in cotton and sat them in a corner quietly.
Right. Yeah. No, they don't want us to do anything, but they'll let us. So
Exactly.
that was their answer.
So, you guys have all brought up great things and actually other different places to check out, to see what Red Cedar School has got going on, Middlebury Transit, maybe they have a couple more buses around. The whole point of this is just to get you guys thinking about us and bus transportation and, the possibilities.
As I have passionately said on this call, I could see that, or I feel like having a bus could open up the opportunity and increase accessibility for our community in some pretty immense ways, in some pretty significant ways. As we know, amongst the 5 towns, Bristol does have the, we are have the lowest average socioeconomic household, like average household income. And we definitely have some kids that whose parents who struggle with food security, who struggle with transportation, and the hub caters to them, and we won't, having the town be able to have access to transportation so we can bring them other places and the families other places so they can have more experiences and see more of Vermont could really, I think, improve the quality of life in Bristol and quality of life for a lot of our residents, which is basically the entire point of the recreation department. It's to make the town of Bristol a more fun place to live and more pleasant.
I think you've put a lot of good work into this, given that your budget's already been decided for this year. It seems like for something with this expense that's tied to it, this is something that you would put forward for next year's budget. If you're unable to find funding in the meantime, it does seem like, as Jill suggested, the rental situation is something where you're able to test it out this season and see how that goes, and just get the experience and get the feeling for using a van and having that transportation available to you. And then that would hopefully help you decide what you wanted to really sort of lock in for next year in terms of equipment and how you might use it.
Yeah, I think the way things are going and the participation you have, and you're gonna outgrow it or be making 2 trips or something of that nature before you know it. It's obvious you're very passionate about that, and that's great about this, and that's great. I just wish there was an easier way to get there. So what, you were basically just looking to bring this before us tonight and get our thoughts and ideas and open the conversation, or are you looking for something in particular tonight?
I think what we've discussed is definitely something that we were looking forward to. The questions that you guys asked, the direction that you've given us, and just letting it be known out there, and as people are watching the select board meetings, that we're interested in finding out how we can get transportation within the department.
All right. Are we ready to move on then?
Thank you.
Yes, thank you
Thanks,
very
guys.
much.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
And I'm sure you'll keep us posted.
We will.
Yes. Good job.
All righty, onward. Third quarter budget status review.
Yes, so I will turn this over to Jen. I believe she has prepared something. And I've made her co-host so she can share whatever she has on the screen. And as I mentioned, that this is an opportunity for the select board and others to check in and see where we are in this year's budget. We're just a few weeks away from the end of the fiscal year, and it's a good way for us to see how things are shaping up as we head into the end of the year.
I thought I had sent this to you, Valerie, but on Friday, so I apologize because I thought you already had it.
Nope, didn't. But hey, that happens.
Okay. So just kind of a generic, I just went through line by line, which I assume you guys kind of scope out when you get your monthly budget reports, and just kind of made some notations as to things that either were just kind of stuck out to me and reminders for you and things like that. So I don't know. I mean, I assume that you guys, when you're getting them monthly, if you had questions, you'd let me know. I know Michelle tends to usually send me a nice list, and then I just send her an email back and say, here's the answers that you're looking for, and if you have more questions, let me know. And that's totally fine, and I'm totally happy to do that for anybody that has questions. Our department heads are really good about managing their budgets, I think, for the most part, and sometimes it's just questions that you guys might have in the interim, but I don't know.
So Jen, from your review, how can you give a bird's eye view of how things look overall? Since we don't have the numbers to compare from how things compare budgetarily.
I think it's still too early to make any kind of tells on things.
We're 3/4 of the way through the budget. Does anything in particular look out of whack or under whack?
I don't know. I guess I don't always evaluate the budget like that. I usually evaluate it based on a line by line basis of something that does or doesn't actually coincide with what's going on, and maybe why it doesn't coincide with what's going on, which are these notes here. Okay. So I don't I mean, I think, like water, we're totally way over our contracted services, which is to be expected because we had leak repairs. So I look at it more like like when I look at Bruce's budget and I look at his overtime and I see that's higher, but I see that his part-time is way down. So those two things offset each other. And for that exact reason, that his full-time people are working, or Bruce is working more overtime than the part-time people are slated to work. So these notes are really kind of absorb, I guess, the thoughts that I have, or the notes that I have based on looking through the budget at this point.
Are they doing the audit right now, Jen? Are you doing an audit right now?
It's just, it's wrapping up as we speak for FY
Okay.
20. Yeah. So we'll start.
And
a
how
new
is that going?
Short one. That's going well. I was just reviewing some of those numbers earlier. You know, our undesignated fund balance is down, but that was to be expected because we used a lot of that money to deposit into capital funds.
When you say it's down, is it below the 5% rainy day fund, or is it just down to the 5%?
So no, based on the way that the auditors review it, because they include in that undesignated fund balance the donation that we got from the A. Johnson.
And the new one. Well, that's not FY20.
Well, that came with stipulations, so that makes it.
Oh, right.
Because A. Johnson didn't come with stipulations and you all opted to put stipulations on it, they include that in the general fund balance.
Right.
As well as the sale of Stoney Hill, because we still haven't used that money, that's still included in our general fund balance. So when you take those two kind of larger numbers out and you look at just what we actually are operating on, or what the undesignated fund money is, I would say I don't believe you're below that threshold, Peaker. But I would say I wouldn't recommend you using it either.
Well, we didn't opt to use any this year. We didn't figure we'd have any, so we didn't use anything. We didn't offset anything with it.
Yeah, I would say that I think some help is that certainly some expenses with, you know, some COVID and FEMA stuff have come through. So we did get reimbursed for some of that at this point, that some of it, because it was March to June, did go in the last fiscal year. I will also say that department heads did a great job of trying to keep spending down when we were kind of in that lull for the 3 months there that was really kind of shutdown mode per se. You know, I think people did a really just responsible job, which I always think we do a very good job anyways, but extra responsible job during that period. So kudos to your guys' departments for sure.
So you don't see any major concerns, Jen, within the budget that you're worried about?
Nothing that's jumping out at me at this point. I mean, I know spring sometimes can bring some unusual things, but knock on wood. So far, so good. You know, we're getting there, and you know, I think everybody's just done a really good job in particular of paying attention to their budget and kind of spending within their means. So there's nothing that I see that makes me concerned. I mean, typically I look at, sometimes I don't go line by line and look at just the bottom, because I know we have discussions, you know, where you overspend something but underspend something else because of certain circumstances. So overall budgets look pretty decent right now.
Well, that's good to know. Speaking of knocking on wood, next meeting on May 10th will be an agenda item about tree removal. And Eric is in the process of getting quotes. Still inventorying the work that needs to be done or should be done, and over what period of time, and what the opportunities are. And it may be something that needs to be split over partly this fiscal year and partly next fiscal year. But so tree removal in general, I think, is going to be something we're going to be paying more budgetary attention to going forward.
Anybody else got any questions? Joel, you started to say something.
Jennifer, you know, when we, at the end of the year, or we have a line and you'll say, well, we spent 75% of that budget and 105 out of that line, and
Yep.
you know, you're, I guess, be just more of a best guess right now. If 100% is right across, where are we at? About 80, 75, some of them, or hard to tell?
I mean, some of them are certainly right on par with what we've budgeted. So about, you know, this goes through March 31st, so about 75%. Some stuff shows 100% because we prepay for items. Some show, you know, so it's kind of a little bit of mixing and matching a little bit. So that's why sometimes it's hard to, you know, just when I go through and like workers' comp, for instance, we pay for that through June 30. We pay for that second installment in
Right.
January. So that's going to show 100% spent in your
I mean, like,
January budget. So
the highway department with 5 of them over there, not seeing any more, possibly not seeing any more overtime between
Yep.
now and June 30th.
and that
Right.
was under, I think.
That was under, so.
Yep.
Okay, things of that nature.
So, you know, and obviously with each department, it changes a little bit just based on personnel and turnover and some other things that have happened in the meantime throughout the year that we didn't plan for. So, you know, potentially there's some savings in Eric's budget just because of the change and the turnover and the differences in the new employees and the old employees and some things like that. So, you know, I think his budget usually looks pretty good anyways, but I think it'll, you know, prove to hopefully have some extra savings, I think, with the turnover that had happened, unfortunately.
All right, thanks.
Yep.
How about revenues, Jen? Did you have a chance to look at how revenues compare for what we projected?
There's still some things that come in and they don't come in till the end of the year. So there's some things that are lingering, like I forget, there's always one that I'm like, why do we not have this money? And it's where like it literally shows up on the doorstep on June 30 is what it feels like. So
right.
There's certainly some things that come in later. You know, Sharon's revenues look great, but that's, you know, a lot of sales and turnover and
Recordings,
properties and things like that. There are some final adjustments that we will have to make just to contribute to the, like I think I said, let's see, clerk fees, more money will have to be moved to the record restoration fund, you know, which we do all anyways, but so like right now that's probably it's overstated a little bit. So we'll make that adjustment, you know, before year end to make sure that, well, that money gets placed appropriately. Dog licenses, I think, are under revenue right now. But I think Gail's working on getting that entry complete. And once the entry is all complete, then we can, you know, send out reminder notices for people who haven't registered their dog yet for this year and just remind them to come in and get their dog registered. And so, you know, like I think highway, we got some extra money because they gave us extra state aid, that extra state aid payment, I think that you and I were trying to solve earlier in the year. And I think that was due to COVID. So, you know, I think our revenues are looking okay. We do still have to make a final payment by June 30 for all these extra delinquent taxes we try to collect between April 5th and June 30, just to kind of play catch up. And then in the meantime, we'll have to just we do need to have a delinquent tax sale. Unfortunately, and it's not for anybody that's late from this year. It's people who are basically have put me to the ropes for the last few years that I've held out on and hoped that they'd come around, and some of them have come around, others have not. So I guess that's something that you guys will need to decide about how we want to proceed, because some of them are not necessarily ideal saleable properties. unless Peaker's
Might
got
end up
something
being owned
in
by
his
the
back
town.
pocket that he's just knows or chomping at the bit for something, or Joel or Ian or whoever. So, but we need to do something about it. So that would be the only thing I'd say, but for the most part.
What's the timeline for that?
Right now I've worked together with Kevin Brennan he got letters out for me, which all of a sudden all these people decide to call, which is so great. So we're looking right now at May 26th. It might get moved a little bit later just based on, like I just sent him a list, I think at the end of last week, saying, here's all the people I need to continue to move on, and the rest we can leave alone because they've responded to me and we've made a plan. So the last date that I had seen from him was May 26th.
So does this need to be an agenda item for the select board to act on in May?
Well, I guess it's going to be what I don't know if they necessarily need to act on anything other than what they want to do with properties that don't, how they
I guess
want
authorize bidding. Yeah.
Off the list because they don't think it's going to get sold, or how. I mean, I certainly could provide the list and they could ask questions. In the meantime, I don't know how we haven't had a tax sale in a while because typically people have, been dealt with. Either they sell the property or we get something going on. So I don't know if, I guess, Peaker, Joel, you guys are the longest on here. How have you typically done it?
Isn't it usually we give the authorization for the tax collector to bid to what is owed to the town? Like if it's $5,000 and it goes to $5,001, we back away. If somebody bids $5,001, then our obligation has been met. I thought that's the way it's been.
I guess I'm thinking more in the event that nobody bids on it and it becomes ours. Is that?
Yeah, provided we want it. There have been circumstances where we haven't because we'd be in worse shape if we ended up with a piece of property.
Well, that's what I guess that's what I'm trying to imply is how you want to.
Yeah, there's been a few mobile homes, remember, Peaker, over there in some of the parks that.
Right.
Yeah, we just opted not to.
It cost us more to get rid of it than what it was worth.
Yeah.
So that's the problem I'm running into, because I have some that are long time non-payers, and how do you want me to move forward with that? And it certainly can be a discussion for another night because I know it's getting late, but that's I guess where I'm unclear as to what you want me to do. You want me to just sit on it and let it be uncollectible, or?
No, we need to put a stop to that. I don't. If it's in a park, is there another way to pursue it?
I've tried to contact park owners to encourage them to come buy it, so that if the tenant was not fulfilling all parts of their lease, that perhaps it was a way for them to evict if they wanted to, but there's no.
We had one over in KTP years ago, and we worked with Actor to, basically.
Yeah, that's what I seem to recall. That's what I was thinking of.
Yeah.
I've tried, and I'm not gaining any traction.
That's because right now there's a moratorium on it anyway.
What do you mean?
You can't evict.
But I mean, this would be a year out. I just want to buy it.
Right.
But
I mean, and you can't even, if it's in a trailer park, can you even put a tax lien on their property? You can't, because they don't own the lot. They only own the trailer, right?
Yeah.
Right. So that's where
the do on is the trailer.
Right. But that's the the problem is that it's hard to sell unless you've got somebody who's looking for
Right.
that in particular. So there are a few of those on the list that I have, that's really what I'm looking for perhaps your guidance on, and maybe you guys can all sleep on it and think about it and we can discuss another time. I certainly can send you the list of the people who
I think we have to at least bid, if nobody bids on what's
well, I think if nobody bids, it becomes ours.
right,
is my
because
understanding.
if somebody doesn't bid, can the landowner, the trailer owner still stay in it?
Yeah.
Well, they will stay for a year.
Right.
Because they have a year to pay it.
Right.
It's just a matter of what happens after that year.
So we all know if it's in a trailer park over here and they have a year to get out, and they do get out the last day of the year, for those first 12 months, they didn't pay any lot rent because now we own the trailer. Are we responsible for the lot rent to Actor?
You don't technically own the trailer until that year is up.
Right.
Because they have a year to redeem.
Right.
I say, let's talk about this another night and get us the list.
I
Jen.
certainly,
Right.
I'll I'll send you
Yeah.
guys the list so that you can look at it and ask me questions, and then we certainly can do it another night, but something to put on the radar as far as how you want to proceed.
Yeah.
All right. Are we ready to move on?
Yes.
Thanks, Jen.
Thanks.
Thank you, Jen.
8. American Rescue Plan Act preliminary discussion. Is this the money for COVID?
Yeah, basically. Just a minor correction in my TA report, I mentioned that the town of Bristol was getting more than 1.1 million. It's apparently it's 1.1 million. It's not more than, it's like that much. So anyway, there's a lot of interest in how the town is going to spend this money. And it's been my feeling that we don't have enough information to know how we're going to spend this money. We don't know what the criteria or eligibility or restrictions or a lot of other parameters are going to be on what we can use this money for. So I've been reluctant, as I've said to people, to really go down this road and take up a lot of people's time on things that might not be relevant when we
Yeah, I think it's just a matter of letting people know it's coming, but right now we have absolutely no idea what we can spend it on. I thought a good thing would be a $250,000 bonus for each select board member and leave the rest of the town, so. But I don't think that's
I can
gonna
go with
fly.
that.
Money well spent, yeah. Yeah.
I'm sure there's going to be plenty of restrictions of what we can and cannot do with this.
Well, we've gotten mixed signals
It's federal
about
money.
that. Some sources say there won't be any or very few, which
Come on, this is the government we're talking about.
I know.
Then
I
Peter's
know.
idea seems a really good one.
That's right. Boy,
I think
you
we
and
should-
Darla got on at the right time.
I know. I think we should table this until we know, because we could just talk about it and dream of amazing things that we could do for the town, and we could then get a long list of restrictions, which could then nix all of that. I think we just need to let people know that it's coming, that we hope it's $1.1 million, which is pretty nice. Though if you're doing large infrastructure, that doesn't go far, unfortunately. But yeah, it's
Especially
just
with
letting
some of
people
the
know
items
it's
that we've already listed that we
right.
it's on our wish list already.
Well, and unfortunately, what this is gonna do is it's gonna put, if it's for that type of infrastructure, it's gonna put so much stress on the construction industry that prices are gonna skyrocket.
Yeah.
You know, it's unfortunate. that everybody's getting it at once, because it's
Yeah.
gonna drive prices up. Unless they give you a long period of time to spend it.
2024.
Well, yeah,
I think that's what it says.
That's not bad.
No, that relieves a little bit of the pressure, but then the other side of it is if you don't spend it, you lose it. So
That would be my
you
guess.
I don't.
Right. Well, one question I do have is whether the select board wants to initiate a public conversation after we get the parameters of what this money can be used for. Do we want to have some sort of public forum to get community input? We internally, and we've expressed outwardly through the budget and through other discussions and the town plan and capital budgeting and of the select board's priorities, but do we want to get other public input?
I think maybe the thing to do is once we figure out what it can be spent on, we generate a list of projects that we deem are reasonable, and then have a forum based on that.
But that doesn't give anyone the opportunity to do projects other than what we've decided.
You didn't let me finish, but that's okay.
Sorry.
I would say, and then we could also leave it open to suggestions. But at least we would know how our projects ranked. You know, how the things that we felt were really important to the community ranked against what the community wanted.
Well, yeah, and based on, I mean, the projects that you would suggest or we would suggest would be based on whatever criteria that they've limited us with. We would have already been through that process.
That the Fed has limited us to, yeah.
And you know, we should have a better understanding of what the town needs as a whole than somebody who had a project that maybe didn't benefit as many people. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying that we close it to ideas. I'm just saying that we should generate a list that we feel are our top and go from there.
Right, and the majority of the projects we have are going to be sort of larger scale infrastructure that's not going to be that, unfortunately, people may not see sort of the impact or the I guess the positive outcomings of, because it's not exciting stuff. It's right. You know, it's water pipes and it's you know, roads, you know, sidewalks. Obviously there's always discussion about sidewalks, and we could always do more of that, you know, but a lot of these too are sort of ones that you don't deal with every single day or come across or use, or you know, but it's just one of those things where to have this money available to us and to be able to use it for such things where it's difficult to find that money year to year, you know, it's nice to be able to zero in on those projects and get them done. And not have to keep struggling.
It's the tax implications of doing those projects.
Right.
And,
right.
You know, if we can figure out a way to do them without tax money, it's all tax money one way or another, but it's not coming directly out of our townspeople's pockets.
Right.
Well, and you know, depending on where the people are in the town, for village versus outside the village, those projects may not mean so much for somebody outside the village as they do at the end ones inside the
That's
village.
right.
So.
They may not, but ultimately in the end, if they're going to end up paying for them out of their taxes, then they're just as much benefit. I mean, I get what you're saying, Michelle. It doesn't seem like that, but ultimately in the end, if it's better for the taxpayers, it's better for the taxpayers. I mean, I know a new water line isn't going to do much for anybody up on Stonewall Drive. I totally get that. But repaving the street after the water line in will, because it'll free up other monies, you know, something like that.
Yeah.
No, I'm just, what I was saying is, like, if we open it up, you're going to get totally different ideas from somebody outside the village and somebody who was in the village.
Oh, definitely. Definitely.
But this is also an opportunity. Go on, Pete.
Right. it doesn't mean that they're not, that they don't warrant attention.
Right. I think, given that we have this money, and once we learn of the sort of stipulations of how we can use it, I think it would be nice for the select board to prepare, or the town to prepare sort of their wish list, and then ask for suggestions. And maybe it's something where it's just if people want to just email it suggestions, or we have some sort of form that people can fill in with suggestions, just to sort of capture all that, because it's an opportunity for people to sort of be thinking about projects maybe on a larger scale than we normally do because of these funds, and just to see what comes in. I think that's always useful. I mean, we had a lot of good suggestions for the Johnson money, and where that could be used. And I think it was very useful to see what kind of thinking was happening in the community, both inside, the village area, outside of the town, and things like that. So I do think it's a good opportunity to get input from the community on what they think should happen in the next few years.
Right. We also have a town plan that was just revised that has a lot of projects listed on it as well. It'd be good to keep those in mind.
Right.
All right, well, until we know what we can spend it on, I guess
Yeah.
we don't need to beat it up anymore.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. Good. Well, thank you for that.
Sure.
That was 8, correct?
Yeah.
Well, the 8 isn't here. I have 9. Review and
Yeah,
adopt.
that was 8.
Yeah, that's review and adopt the local emergency management plan.
So moved.
I did receive some offline updates for the rescue squad contact information, new president, new phone number to include. And also the suggestion to try to track down cell phone numbers for some of the area contractors for which only 453 numbers were provided, because it's probably likely that many of those folks have cell phone numbers that we can reach them after hours, but we just didn't have them at hand.
I probably have them.
Ew.
Did I miss the second for that?
Yeah, we didn't get one yet.
Okay.
I'll second it.
There we go. Any further discussion on the town's emergency plan?
And to designate you and Joel as signers,
Huh?
because you
Yep.
are both ICS
Oh,
representatives and ICS trained.
gotcha. All right. Hearing no further discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye or raise your hand. Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
10 is,
East Street Sidewalk.
Right. Did folks have a chance to glance at the draft scope?
Tiny bit.
I did not.
Understandable.
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to. I saw that it came in, but I didn't look.
Yeah.
At it.
Yeah.
So
So
you want
last year we included the just to say that for background, the details of the construction stuff, specifications have been carried over year after year after year, and I have not looked at those to revisit that. But procedurally, last year we included a provision, an alternative where the Public Works Department would do the preparation. And we asked for alternative quotes if the contractor did the preparation versus if the Public Works Department did the preparation. And I structured it that same way this time, but I had a feeling that this year it might not work out that way. And Eric affirmed that it would probably not be a good idea to do that this year. And especially if we have the opportunity to have grant funds cover some of these sidewalk, or maybe this sidewalk project or some part of it, why burden the Public Works Department with that expense? Yep. So in the draft that was circulated, it did have the Public Works Department doing that preparation and having that alternative bid scope. So if we take that out, I'll be interested to know if anybody had any other thoughts about it. And obviously some folks haven't had a chance to look at it tonight, so I understand that.
Yeah, I think we want to take that out. I think they've got enough on their plate.
Right. And we also talked about the idea of penalties, about if we set a deadline and the contractor doesn't meet it. That was definitely a concern later in the year when we were up against some seasonal deadlines and some other things. But I'm wondering if we get the bid out early enough. I'm concerned about restricting bidders and limiting bidders. If we want to include that, it might deter some folks from bidding on the project if they think they might be penalized if they miss a deadline.
I mean, we asked for that, right? Because we were having problems getting a contractor to finish work.
Yep.
So how do we, I don't know. I mean, we need something, because it seems like we're always left in this position where we're just sort of like floundering, trying to get things done, and feel like we're powerless to get things completed. So that's why we talked about that. But I do understand, like, a contractor may look at that and be like, well, I'm not going to touch that one. And then that's going to limit who we can get, especially at these times.
Right.
But that's,
I don't think we've had the issues, well, other than the Mountain Street, we were pushed off a year, but I don't think we've had the issues once they show up of the work being done in a timely manner that we had with our previous contractor. Our previous contractor would show up and string it out for months. The last two we've had have showed up and it's been done. It's been done in a week or two's time. All our sidewalks have been done. So,
okay.
Well, there have been other non-sidewalk related projects where this was
Right.
Drainage issues.
I mean, is there a way that we can change that language so it doesn't seem as harsh, perhaps, but still gives us a little bit more power?
Doesn't seem quite so
No
punitive.
language in there at all about a penalty for not meeting a deadline.
So you take it out, or you wouldn't have it in?
Well, right now there has not.
Oh, I see.
Language. It's not there now.
Okay.
The question is
And
whether we add something.
whether we want to put it in. Yeah.
I think it depends on the project.
So for sidewalks, we feel pretty confident, especially with the new contractors that we've been using. And then perhaps for other contracts, larger scale things, maybe more complex, we might want to put something in.
Well, I think it depends on what it is and where it is, like sidewalks, you really, yeah, time of year, you really can't pour sidewalks feasibly in the wintertime. And
Right.
any concrete contractor knows that if he doesn't get to it until late, he's not going to do it. And then working the roads, that's where we've got in trouble, where, it just drags out, gets started late. And I think that, those projects need to be done prior to snowfly. And obviously you could have early snowfall, but it's reasonable to think that, once you get to the end of November, that you probably don't want to be opening up a highway for a major project.
Yeah. Okay.
I would say leave it out for now. And then, when we negotiate with a contractor, or when we get a bid and we talk to that contractor, if they give us a date, then we ask them for, some sort of, I don't know, is it guarantee would be the word I'd use, but that it's going to get done in a timely manner.
yeah, but Peter, if we don't have anything in writing that says if you don't do it in a timely manner, you're going to get deducted or something, then their word doesn't mean, I don't want to say their word doesn't mean anything. I don't want to put our contractors down, but I think, first of all, these bids we should be reading bids tonight. for sidewalks that have been scheduled. Should have put them out 1st of January. So those guys and sitting in those, when they're looking out their window, getting this summer's work in January, they're going to bid and say, well, Bristol's looking for 400 feet or 600 feet of sidewalk. But now, you know, their summer is partially booked or probably all booked. And I still think we need to have something. If you give us a start date, you got to start within 2 weeks of your committed start date, or you get something. I don't know what it is, but we got to do something.
Well, like Valerie says, well, you get bids. If you look at it and you know, you look at it and you're not 100% sure of your schedule, and there again, like concrete is dependent on weather. I agree. It would be nice to be able to hold their feet to the fire, but it always seems like there's always a way around it.
Because we don't have it. They can say, well, I don't have to be there. I got to get something else done. They don't have anything in their contract that says I have to be there.
Josh put something in the
Yeah,
chat.
I see that. Incentivize finishing early. There are that's an option I would say would be better than
Penalty.
Timeline.
saying you had a penalty.
Hmm.
You know, if I tell you I'm going to do the job and I'm going to start in 2 months, and you say, well, if you've got it done prior to that 2 months, we'll give you a bonus or extra, then I might be inclined to squeeze it in ahead of time.
Yeah.
Then what would that look like? What would be the bonus, the benefit?
I don't know.
Yeah, that's
I mean, you have it.
So, I mean, I like it. I just haven't encountered it administratively.
I know, like the big state jobs, the multi-million-dollar jobs, they have a per day for every day you're early. There's a substantial amount of money.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And I don't think, you know, we don't have a substantial amount of money for sidewalks.
Right. And again, with the time of year, I don't know that if it's early in the year, I don't know that it's that time sensitive. And to the extent that we can accommodate contractor schedule, I think we might get better pricing.
Yeah.
So obviously folks aren't ready to make a decision tonight, but hopefully you have a chance to look at it. I totally appreciate that the select board wanted this out sooner, which is why I tried to get it on at least for tonight's agenda. We got this far. Just for perspective, we didn't get last year's out or the previous year's out until July. So we're gaining. But anyway. So we'll plan to, unless you want to make any kind of general motion to authorize going ahead with some minor adjustments, like taking out the public works component. And if you think the rest of it's pretty straightforward and you want to authorize going ahead, if you feel comfortable with that, just that's an idea, that's an option.
Well,
I mean, I'm comfortable with that because we've already used this on previous ones. So with those tweaks, I'd be comfortable making motion for that.
It's
Val, can I
fairly
ask?
boilerplate.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question? You know, you guys were talking about a penalty for them not doing it on time, but do we put in there, and I don't think I read this, that we withhold like 10% until the job is complete and we do the inspection and are satisfied that it's complete?
That's not a bad idea.
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah, that should be in all of our RFPs, I would think.
And we could, well, without adding it in, if some of you are opposed to adding it in a penalty or finish ahead of time, you get a bonus. But if the bids come in competitively and we talk to 2 or the 3 contract, well, let's say we get 3 and we talk to all 3 and say, okay, when is your start date? And they give us the start date and say, okay, if you start and finish on time or finish ahead of time and the bids were good, we could give up a bonus in the budget, so to speak.
Yeah.
I don't see prices being good.
No,
this
I don't
year.
either, Pico.
I really don't.
There's plenty of work out there and not a lot of contractors.
Yeah.
I made a motion.
Yeah, we need a second.
A second.
There we go. We got a whole bunch of seconds.
Can you repeat the motion?
The motion was to accept the RFP with changes that we've discussed. And the changes would be removing, what was it, language for?
Public Works option.
Thank you, Public Works language. We wouldn't be adding in the penalty, but we would be adding in what Jill just suggested, which I've already forgotten.
10%.
10%.
Thank you. Yes, completion, holding back completion amount until.
Going back 10% until final inspection.
Thank you.
I heard you say it, Ian.
Thanks.
You did well.
I didn't hear me say it. So.
I had added satisfactory final inspection, or is that a given? Even if the final inspection is done.
Satisfactory is fine.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's safe to put in.
Further discussion?
One other question. I was going by the inventory plan that had been prepared by Peter Coffey. And East Street was clearly next on the list, but also Park Place was on the list. And I had also gotten a couple calls from Bristol Park Dental folks who were very concerned about the condition of their sidewalk. So I accepted that was it validated it being next on the list, or at least included in this cycle. I just want to make sure folks are in agreement with that, because there may be other areas in town there that also have high priority needs. And I just want to check in if folks agree with that combination. And if you need more time, we don't need to decide that tonight. If you need more time to think about it.
Yeah, you can, well, you can let the bid out for lineal feet of sidewalk, however many feet we figure we want to do, and then we can verify those 2 spots.
Okay.
In the interim.
Can I ask a question about the list that Peter prepared? Is it what you sent? Is it just that text list and the details, or is there more to his inventory?
That's all I have.
Okay. Because I definitely like to see that improved, and actually I was working on it today because I like something on the website, the details, because I get a lot of questions about sidewalk as well. And it's been hard for me to answer because I wasn't sure of what we had. And one of the ideas is I'd like to go through it again. I mean, I walk a lot around town. I'm happy to sort of look at and check different things. It'd be nice to have sort of photographs of the areas, and then have like a table on the web page that details the plan, at least so people can see it and give feedback. You know, the fact that someone saw it for this evening's meeting and gave you feedback, I think is positive. So I think if we had it on the website, that would be good. I'm also working on like a Google Maps interactive where we can highlight the different areas, and then you'd also be able to see the timeline of when that's going to happen. And so that might lead to more conversation about this and more public input.
Right. And just to circle back on what Ian is talking about, I received communication from a citizen who saw the 10-year plan and was concerned that a section of Church Street was not on it, and felt that it was a high priority and should be added, not only added, but moved to the top. And so it raises a good question about how that list gets reviewed and updated, especially as we proceed with improving the sidewalks. You know, how do we move things up? And meanwhile, some sections that were in decent shape 2 years ago might be total not.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, in the past, it's been, prior to Peter, it was Sharon Companion who walked every day and walked the majority of the sidewalks. And then Peter who walked every day and walked the majority of the sidewalks. It sounds like Ian is picking up the torch and.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, we have to have somebody out there as well, because the sidewalk in front of my house is always the worst sidewalk and needs replacing more than anybody else's. But I think if you.
Mine's fine.
If you walk, yeah, if you walk all the sidewalks, then at one point or another, you get a better picture of what, and I'll be honest, I do not walk the sidewalks, so.
Well, I would like to think that there's a way, and I know there is a way to objectively quantify this by scoring them, by identifying width, condition, and ranking them and prioritizing. This section is like hazardous and narrow, and versus this section is 5 feet wide and in pretty good shape, so it gets a different score. I mean, there's a way to do it objectively, but I don't know if it's been done.
Yeah, I don't know about that, but I can tell you, I know when they did Church Street, the last time they did Church Street, they did a crap job. So technically, you know, it might be 10 years before that should be replaced again, but it's probably ready to do soon because they didn't do a very good job when they did it.
Yeah.
We just need to build a table with like matrix of how we rank the sidewalks and build that out. And so, yeah, what I was working on, it was based on the list that you had sent, Val.
Mhm.
I'm just doing something simple just for the website. Let's see if I can find it. Here we go. I'll share it.
Well,
Which is
just
the
so you
sphere.
know, just so you know, Ian, that like when Sharon had done it, it was like 100-year plan. And he said, no, we're cutting this down to
Yeah.
a 10-year plan.
Well, if we're getting some COVID money, let's see if we can chip away at some of that. So the idea was to be able to do a map, and so you'd be able to see the different areas and figure out like a color scheme and stuff like that. But at least it gives you an idea of, here's our dates. I started to put these in, and this would be on the webpage as well as being on this map. So at least you get an idea, and it also helps too, because then we can see, most of the sidewalks in the village on the map, and to be able to revisit and look at each and rank each one. And obviously it's going to take time, but I'm happy to sort of, chip away at that and get more detail in there so we can start to formulate, and keep to a plan.
All right.
Cool.
So I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Yes, Eric.
The only thing I got is the last couple contractors we had to do sidewalks didn't adhere to the MUTCD guidelines as far as signage and traffic control.
Yeah, that's right. Thanks
So
for the
do you want
reminder about that.
provision in for that if they don't have it, if they need it?
I would say so. I mean, most sidewalks are going to be in the road, and you're going to need all that stuff. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's in the bid spec that they'll comply with it, and they just have chose not to.
Right. So I guess my question is if depending on the contractor you get this time, if they don't adhere to it, what would be the course of action?
Don't know.
Shut them down until they get it, or?
That's probably, that's probably the way it should be. I know if you're doing a state project and you don't have the proper signage, they won't let you operate.
Is that something, or if we're withholding that 10% that they wouldn't get it if they didn't do that? And they'd have to comply?
Well, that would be at the end of the job. That would be assuming that they complied and finished the job.
That's right. Yeah.
True.
It's interesting that in the case of East Street, there's enough green space between the sidewalk and the road where traffic control might not be necessary, but that might not be the case on Park Place.
Yeah. Park Place.
Yeah, but see, I'd feel safer with no traffic control on Park Place than not on East Street. just given the traffic and the speed.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
True, yeah. And there would need to be an alternative sidewalk provided, some sort of detour for
How you
safety.
gonna do that on Park Street? How you gonna do that on Park Street?
Yeah. 'Cause
Sidewalk.
Yeah, there's not other than.
At least East Street, there's the other side of the road.
Yeah.
I didn't say East Street. I said, how you gonna do an alternate sidewalk on Park Street? There's not one.
Walk in the park.
Yeah.
So, Joel, you mentioned Park Street. Do people think of it as Park Street or Park Place?
I
I
guess.
think it says Park Street, doesn't it?
Well, Google Maps has it as Park Street. Other things have it as Park Street, but other things have it as Park Place. And the
I
sign
think it's
Park Place.
911. I think it's Park Place. And then there's School Street from the alley down to West Street.
Yeah.
Church.
My guess is it's Park Place, but I was just
Right.
for a little clarification on what people actually think it is. If you go to Google, it's things are listed as Park Street. But anyway, so that helps. I'll go with Park Place.
Okay, we voting?
Yeah, you still didn't come up with an answer of what happens, what do you do if they don't follow the standards?
I think we shut them down. I think we stop them until they
Yeah,
follow
I
the
think
standards.
that's,
Yep. Yeah, and be upfront that that's an expectation.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And whose responsibility is it to, well, for lack of a better word, police that, Bruce?
Well, I think it would be either Eric or myself. Preferably Eric.
Yeah, send him over.
That's
Send
what I
him
was
over.
getting at.
Delegating.
Eric, do we, when we do a water line repair, you did half a dozen or to a dozen here on Pine Street in the last 3-4 years. I know we put our signs up, but do we get traffic control?
Yes.
If we are closing the road, yes, we close the road with proper signs and the road's shut down.
I didn't ask you that. I asked you, do we get personnel, traffic control? I know you guys put up the signs, but does VTUMs and them, they did the one down there on Munsell Avenue here, and I didn't see ADA or any of them directing traffic. I'm just saying, if we're going to expect our contract, we got to do the same thing, people. That's all I'm saying is, if I haven't seen us with our water departments. We put out our signs and they're good about Jill and Cy and you guys are, but I don't see ADA in each one stop and go signs.
Yeah, but I don't think, Munsell, did they have it down to one lane or did they close it?
Well, if you got a cement mixer sticking out of the, huh?
Normally when you do water, they close the road.
Mm-hmm.
And if you close the road, you don't need ADA. You got your barricades up and your road close signs. You don't need ADA.
Okay.
Right.
I just want to make sure we're, you know.
Hey, that's a different topic. We're on sidewalks right now, so.
No, we're not, Peter. It's the same topic.
No, let's finish up the sidewalks. We have a motion. It's not relevant to the sidewalk motion. We got select board concerns coming up. You can bring it up then. Are we ready to vote on the sidewalks?
Yes, we are.
All those in favor signify by saying aye or raise your hand. Opposed, nay. Motion carried.
Thank you.
We're skipping the minutes.
Thank you.
And we're on to
Accounts payable.
Accounts payable.
Yep. Tasha, did you get the warrant?
$709,441.63.
Okay.
And I had to ask Sharon what TAN meant.
Good guess.
Tax anticipation note.
Yeah, well, I had no idea. It was like, what are we paying that kind of money for?
Because we can.
Yeah.
Any questions? Make sure you get down and sign them in the next few days. Select Board Roundtable. Joel, now you can do your signs.
You're muted.
Perfect.
Never mind. I got nothing.
Oops, did I say that? Sorry.
Ian.
Just a reminder, I've asked this before, but can we put the full Zoom links on agendas? Some just have the meeting ID and the password, but it'd be great to have the full URL. I use that to post on Front Porch Forum and to post on Facebook, and I often have to log into Zoom to get the full URL because it's just the short one. So if we could put that on agendas.
You did that this time?
You did, yes. In other agendas, no. It looks like Planning Commission and Development Review Board only has the password and the user ID, but it'd be nice to have the full one on there. It just makes it easier too, because people can just click through.
Right.
And then
You may have to educate Kevin on how to do that. Kevin Hansen, because I don't think he's computer literate. To that
really?
point.
Oh, okay.
Anyway.
So that, and then the other thing I have was something for Eric. Would it be okay to have the Department of Public Works pick up the sand barrels in the stands and store those for the season?
Eric.
Looks like he's gone.
Eric's watching his TV.
Be gone.
Yeah, we can get 'em. They're gonna be a pain in the butt because they're still 3/4 full of sand.
You obviously put way too much sand in there.
Yeah. I carry
No,
that for
but
next year.
We're gonna end up at your house, Ian.
Yeah, they were used though, and I think they were very appreciative. But yeah, they weren't used as heavily as we thought, but I think they were used, and it was a useful thing. Are you okay grabbing them and storing them somewhere?
Yeah, we can bring them over and figure out someplace to put them.
Okay, I have one more blue barrel that I'll drop off at the garage over there. You can put with them. That's just like a spare we'll have.
Okay.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Yep.
All set?
Yeah, perfect. Thank you.
Darla?
I wanted to give a shout out to Bruce Nason for answering a late night non-urgent text. I sent a question to him that I had someone contact me late at night about an issue. I sent Bruce a note and just expecting something back in the morning, and he got back to me right away. So thank you for that, Bruce. Wanted to give you some acknowledgement for that. Also, I did notice recently the new accessible entrance signs on the front of Holly Hall. I don't know when they went up, but I did just notice them. They look great. They're very noticeable. They're much, and they don't have wording on there that's offensive to anyone. So I think it's really great. So I want to acknowledge that because I brought that up at a couple of other meetings. And also wanted to congratulate the 5-town partnership on the successful food drive. And thanks to the fire department and Shaw's for supporting that effort.
All set?
That's it.
Michelle?
Just remember Green Up Day is Saturday. The bags, I think, well, when I picked some up the other day, there weren't too many left on Holly Hall. I don't know if they're coming to refill them or not, but they're at the Holly Hall and they're at the library. So gloves and bags. So come get them and clean up.
I think they've all been delivered, but we can check with Carolyn Dash, or I can.
Okay. That's it.
That's it. I'm good. Administrators report.
I do not have anything to add, although I had intended to include in my report the upcoming Acorn Energy information session on April 28th for people that are interested in signing up or learning more about it. There's information that's been posted on Front Porch Forum and elsewhere, and I meant to reiterate that in my report, but I overlooked it. So I just wanted to draw attention.
Okay. Correspondence? Nothing? Okay, executive session?
There's nothing, there are no contractual things to discuss that I'm aware of. And unless the select board wants to meet on personnel matters, I don't have anything to suggest other than what you've already received offline.
I'm good.
Awesome. A motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
There we go.
Muller
All those in
People.
favor signify by saying aye. Raise your hand.
Aye.
Hey,
Opposed,
Val's
nay?
got something else. Don't be saying yeah yet.
Wait, just a quick thing. A question was asked in the chat about the new hires at the Public Works Department because it hasn't been publicly disclosed. So I just want to acknowledge welcoming Christopher Bapp and Anthony what's
Goodrich.
Goodrich. Yes, Goodrich, Anthony Goodrich. Thank you. I have too many names bouncing around right now. So Christopher Bapp and Anthony Goodrich are our new Public Works employees, and welcome to them. And we're happy to have them on board.
Have they started already, Val, or?
Christopher last week and Anthony today.
Cool.
Eric's going to be right on a dead run. He's going to be all caught up in a week's time.
Love it.
All right. All those in favor of adjournment, raise your hand or say aye.
Aye.
Opposed,
Yes.
nay.
I won't
Motion
be at,
carried.
I
Good
won't
night,
be at
everybody.
next meeting. I won't be here.
What? What are we gonna do?
I have a Legion thing, so I'll just watch it the next night. So, but
You lucky thing, you get to escape.
you can live without me.
Enjoy your night off.
Guys.
Good night, everybody.
Good night,
Good
everybody.
night, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.